Very good morning to one and all present. This is Neha Bhatt, Assistant Professor, Department of Management and Commerce, Jagannath University. I, on behalf of Jagannath University, take this opportunity and pride to welcome all our eminent speakers, our guests, and the participants to the international webinar on trends in technology for agriculture, food, environment, and health. I shall also be the host for today's international webinar. It also brings me great joy and pride that this webinar is being conducted on 2nd of October, which is the birth anniversary of our Rashtrapita Mahatma Gandhi. It is also celebrated as the International Day of Non-Violence, since Mahatma Gandhi is known for the non-violence. So I'm happy that this international webinar is being organized on 2nd of this October. Notwithstanding between the speakers and audience, I wish that we may start the proceedings of this webinar. For this, I invite Dr. R.K. Behel, the Chief Mentor and Moderator of the webinar, to say a few words about the webinar. I would like to introduce to all of us Dr. Rishi Behel. Just a few things. This will not be, this will not be much, but there is a lot to say about Dr. Rishi Behel. He is also the Chief Mentor and the Moderator of today's international webinar. Professor Dr. Rishi Behel has served as Associate Dean, College of Agriculture, and Professor of Plant Breedings, CCS Haryana Agricultural University, Hisar, Haryana. He's also been the Director, New Initiatives and International Affairs, also been the Director, Research and Development, Universal Institute of Technology, Hisar, India, and is now working as a consultant for many international organizations globally. Sir has been awarded Bharat Ratna C. Subramaniam Award for Outstanding Teachers by Indian Council for Agricultural Research, New Delhi. Honorary DART Advisor by German Academic Exchange Service, Bonn, Germany, from 2006 to 2009, and has been Founder Secretary of Society for Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management, SSARM, from 1997 onwards in India. International Foundation for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia, IFSADA, is the coordinator and in the global network, and African Asian Studies Promotion Association, AASF, Mahatma Gandhi House, Göttingen, Germany. Founder Secretary and now President, International Council of Sustainable Agriculture, Germany, and Management Board Member of RBS Faculty of Agriculture, Agra, India. Sir has been associated with the development of plant material with specifically useful traits for stress tolerance and plant microbe interactions in wheat. Sir is also the member of editorial board of several international journals and published about 240 papers, 4 practical manuals, and 32 edited books. There is still a lot to say about Dr. Rishi Behel, but I would like to invite Dr. Rishi.
Thank you, Neha, for being generous and to say some very kind words about me. Being the mentor of this webinar, I would like to say that why we organize this webinar on Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. Mahatma Gandhi basically believed in world peace, believed in world progress, tranquility, and he foresaw a planet Earth where all living beings live with dignity. That was his vision. And he wanted to achieve his vision through agriculture, through rural industry, industrialization, through the indigenous traditional foods, which has adequate nutritional quality, to have coherence of the environment so that we have good human health, and all these will turn up into well-being of the humankind. That was his vision. And therefore, this webinar is also including 5 cardinal elements of well-being. That is agriculture, a primary driver of employment, livelihood throughout the world. The food determines what a man thinks, how a man lives, what a man eats. Nutrition, whether it's nutrition for mind, nutrition for body, nutrition for the systems, and likewise environment. Now you see that why environment has all of a sudden become very important. In pre-revolution, industrial revolution era, we had wonderful environment with 300 ppm carbon dioxide. But now everywhere, in every country, carbon dioxide emission has increased many times to a serious level. Therefore, coherence of environment has become questionable, and the, the unsafe agriculture, unsafe food, inadequate nutrition, and unsound environment, they all will affect the human health and as such the well-being. Therefore, all these elements look separate, but they are interrelated. They are basically interfaces of the well-being or human health. Therefore, this webinar has been organized, and we have been active in IFSADA since 2007. And I will request Machiavelli Singh to present a small presentation about the publications of IFSDA. They are available on the AgroBios websites, and everyone can take an iota of information that what we have been doing and how meaningful work we have been doing and we plan to do in future. So therefore, I will pass the mic to Machiavelli Singh.
A very good morning to all the IFSDA, ASF members and senior board members and our chief guests. So let me start off with the brief about the journey of 2007 about the IFSDA's achievements. So it's my honor that Professor Sahel has treated me to present about the achievements of IFSDA. So starting this journey with the, this is an honor to a living agent and district scientist and GEO plant leader who started up with the IFSDA in 2007 under the aegis of AASF and SSARM Society, and on behalf of the Jagannath University, we are conducting this event. So our salute to National Professor B.C. Dayal. So they started with the 2007 when the IFSDA born in 2007. He released his first maiden book, Sustainable Agriculture for Food, Livelihood, Energy and Livelihood Security 2007, with his best kept secrets on Indian soils. And in 2010, they come up with their second book, Crop Science and Land Use for Food and Bioenergy, with Professor Wolfgang Wehrba, Professor Mixe, Professor C. Ketz, Crop Science and Land Use for Food and Bioenergy. Third book, again they have launched in 2010 with the Resource Management towards Sustainable Agriculture and Development, co-edited with the Kovac and Professor Reinhans. And then fourth book they have launched in 2012. These are all the outcomes of its Crop Science and Technology for Food Security and Bioenergy and Sustainability by Professor Sahel, Bona, Boff, Wehrba and Kovac. And in 2013, continuing with this mission, they have released their fifth book on the crop production, stress environment, genetic and management options by Professor P.P. Singh, B.S. Tomar, Professor Sahel, Professor Upadhyay, Professor Kale, and Professor Hari. In 2013, they continued this with the sixth book in the same year on renewable energy resources and their management by Professor Bahl, Professor Chibber, Professor Jan, Professor Bahl, and Al Basam. And in seventh, in 2014, they come up with their seventh achievement, that is Biotechnology and Plant Breeding Perspectives by Professor Bahal and Professor Hardwar Arsenic from Turkey. And then in 8th, 2014, they come up with the cutting edge science and technology for food, environment and health with Professor Bahal, Professor Asif and Professor W. Wehrba. Continuing with the 9th in 2015 on the production and processing of food crops for value addition, technology and genetic options. That is with the Professor Bahal, A.P. Singh, Professor Lal and Bird Research. And in the 10th, they came up with in 2016 Vistas in Computer Aided Agri Bioengineering Technologies, Professor Bahal with Dr. Bhatia, Bhoop Singh, Manura Khasija, Vinod Thakkar and Sandeep Losar. And in 2018, they got their 18th achievement from the ASM IFSDA by releasing the book on biotechnology and bioscience perspectives by Professor Sahel, A.P. Singh, Vijay Srivastava, and Surinder Patodia. And 12th in 2018, they started up with one more project on the genetic and natural resources toward food, energy, and environment. Professor Bahal, Ravindra Khadodia, Dr. Manfred Kohn, Dr. Wolfgang Weber. And in 2013, last year, they achieved their 13th book project, that is Emerging Technologies Towards Agriculture, Food and Environment by Professor Bahal, establishing Ajay Meghwal and Wolfgang Weber. So today is the auspicious day of the birthday of our grandfather, that is Mahatma Gandhi ji. So we are doing this function to release the 14th book today by our chief guest. Thank you.
So, on behalf of IFSDA, ASF, SSAR, and GENPA, wholeheartedly welcome all the distinguished speakers from Germany, France, Canada, USA, India, and I wish that the proceedings of the webinar is started by formal welcome to be accorded by the Pro-Chancellor of Jagannath University, Professor H.N.
Thank you, well, sir. And thank you, Machiavelli, sir, for your introduction about etc. about everything. And thank you, sir, for welcoming formally everybody on this platform. I would now like to invite Dr. H.L. Verma. He is the Pro-Chancellor of Jagannath University, NCR Bahadurgarh. A brief profile about Sir. Sir has previously worked in APJ Satya University as Pro-Vice Chancellor, in Guru Jambheshwar University of Science and Technology as Professor and Dean of Management, and Pro-Vice Chancellor from 2000 to 2003 as a Reader and Head Department of Commerce, Maharishi Dayanand University from 1988 to 1996 at Regional Center Rewari, now Indira Gandhi University, Mirpur Rewari. Sir was a lecturer in the Department of Commerce, Kurukshetra University from 1984 to 1982 and served as lecturer in degree colleges from 1976 to 1984. Sir has authored 12 books and published about 63 research papers. Sir is originally from Punjab. Sir has completed his PhD in 1988. And there are more than 24, 25 research scholars who Sir is guiding under him. I am also one of them, fortunately. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. And I would like to invite Dr. H.L. Verma, sir, to please say something about the university and welcome.
So, thank you, Neha, for giving me this opportunity to welcome the dignitaries, all the participants on behalf of the university and my own behalf to this international webinar on a subject which is of...
Professor Verma.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yes, sir, you're
Okay. So which is of relevance to each one of us. Now this today webinar is on trends in technology for agriculture, food, nutrition, environment and health. And this webinar has been organized jointly by 4 international level associations, which include International Foundation for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia, IFSDAA. And second one is African Asian Studies Promotion Association, AASF, Germany. Another association is Society for Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management, SSARM, India. And fourth one is Genetics, Epigenetic, Environment and Nutrition towards Plant, Animal and Human Health, GEENPAHH, India. This webinar is being organized by Jagannath University, Bahadurgarh, Haryana. So we are grateful to all these organizations, to all these associations, that they gave this opportunity to Jagannath University, Haryana, India, to organize this international level webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to listen agriculture scientists of international repute, which include Professor D.P. Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru Agriculture University, Jabalpur, India, and President of SSARM, Dr. Kasai Wolde Georgis from Germany, who is Vice President of AASF, Professor Aaron Shibard from Canada, a distinguished Professor or Chair, Canada Chair, Dr. Ahmed Shammas, Professor from Johns Hopkins University, US, Dr. Rakesh Chandra, Deputy Director General, ICAR, India, Dr. Manfred Kern from Germany, former Global Head of Business Relations of Bayer Group and Senior Vice President of IASBAA, Professor Arthur Riodecker, who is a Kohl Nobel Prize winner, IPCC 2007, Ms. Mulu Solomon Benjone, Her Excellency, Ambassador of Ethiopia in Germany, and my own colleague, Professor Sumer Singh, presently Vice Chancellor of Jagannath University. We are grateful to Professor R.K. Bahel, under whose guidance, who made it possible that this international webinar, he made it possible that senior dignitaries, senior scientists of international repute, so they are now at one platform and will be discussing about the trends in technology for agriculture, food, nutrition, environment, and health. Now, friends, another beauty of this webinar is that this webinar has been organized on a day which is the birth anniversary day of our father of the nation, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, born on October 2nd in 1869, and he lived up to 30th January 1948. Nelson Mandela has said that Mahatma Gandhi, India was his birthplace and South Africa was the country of his adoption. Mahatma Gandhi was having the citizenship of both the countries, Indian citizenship and South Africa citizenship. He went to Africa initially in the year 1893 for 1 year to serve as a legal counsel for a Gujarati Muslim merchant, and he was compelled to extend his stay in South Africa for 21 years to fight against colonial injustice. It was this stay in South Africa which provided him the tough apprenticeship that made him a true satyagrahi. He would have given up and come back earlier, but one most well-known incident that happened just within 10 days after his arrival to South Africa, when on the way to Pretoria in the service of his client, he was thrown off the train, presuming that he was traveling in the first class coach, that when he was having a valid ticket. So this personal affront precipitated the most creative night of his life, and he decided to fight for social injustice or the disease of this color injustice. So he stayed in Africa for 21 years. And Gandhiji was a highly evolved and a spiritual human being. To him,
Okay.
spirituality comes first, other things like politics and public life
Yeah, okay, बोल रहा है.
were the byproducts of spirituality. Gandhiji's central theme of life was that if we want change in the world, then it should start with us. Throughout his life, he did experiments on himself and expanded them for the larger good. He strongly believed that each one of us can create a sustainable world. Now, coming to the today's webinar, it relates to trends in technology for agriculture, food, nutrition, environment, and health. Whole of the world today is passing through a very critical phase because of this serious and uncertain pandemic COVID-19, for which no visible solution in the near future is seen. Health of the people is affected. Health is derived from food, nutrition, and environment and agriculture products. Therefore, coherence in these elements should be there for better human life. In this context, there are certain issues which I'm sure various experts will be reflecting upon, that UN Sustainable Development Goals in 2015 have been issued, which is a collection of 17 interlinked goals, a blueprint designed to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, which is a part of the UN Resolution 2030 agenda. Now, that is one area which need to be considered. Gandhiji's philosophy on agriculture, rural development, environment, nutrition can be considered because his philosophy of life was that ultimately it is spiritualism, that all of us, we are interlinked at the higher level, and the solution to the sustainable development can be achieved in the world for peace and prosperity through joint efforts. Now, friends, population in the world is growing exponentially. At present, the estimated population is 7.8 billion in the world. And during the last 50 years, it has doubled. In 1970, it was half of that. At present, world population is growing at a rate of 1.05% annually. And it is expected that in the 21st century also, world population will grow, but at a declined rate of increase. To feed the growing population, agriculture is the lifeline, and sustainable agriculture need to be the ultimate goal of that. Now, in that context, the other issues which also can be considered while discussing this broad area of discussion, that genetically modified products on which the scientists are focusing to increase production of the agriculture to feed the increasing population in the world. What will be their effect on health? Research, it is an area for research, for future research. Because at present, that what will be the effect on health of these genetically modified products, because those are not natural. So what is going to be the impact of that. Now another area is, now there is a demand for products where organic fertilizers are used. So technology is required for promoting the organic products, organic fertilizers. So these are some of the areas which I think, because I am not a man of agriculture science, so this 2 day seminar, I am sure that after listening to all the senior scientists, experts, we will grow wiser regarding the subject which we are going to discuss. Now, with these words, I once again, on behalf of the university, on behalf of my colleagues, my students, and the management of this university, I welcome all the participants, all the keynote speakers. It is a great opportunity, and we are highly thankful, highly grateful that Jagannath University has been considered for hosting this 2 days webinar program. And we are thankful to Professor R.K. Bahel, the mentor, the person who has made all this possible. So, with these words, I once again welcome all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words and for again welcoming all our eminent speakers, our guests, and the participants in this international conference, in this international webinar. Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting on the importance of the theme of today's webinar and also on the essence of conducting this webinar on this auspicious day, which is the Gandhi Jayanti, 2nd of October, sir. Sir, I would like to welcome Dr. D.P. Singh. He has joined this international webinar, and I would now like to welcome Dr. D.P. Singh. Dr. D.P. Singh has been working as Dean, College of Agriculture, India, and has obtained his PhD degree from Germany in the 70s, and thereafter joined CCS, Haryana Agricultural University, Hisar, as a professor of ergonomy. Sir has also worked as Dean, College of Agriculture at Haryana Agricultural University, Hisar, as Vice Chancellor at Jawaharlal Nehru Agricultural University, Jabalpur, and then a member of Farmers Commission, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, and consultant, Farmers Commission, Haryana. Sir is Fellow of National Academy of Agri-Science, NAS, and represents on many ICR committees, including Chair of National Agricultural Research. Dr. Singh has traveled widely and is a very well-experienced legend in agricultural sciences. I again would like to welcome sir on behalf of the Jagannath University. Sir will speak about the SSCRM and the sustainable agriculture. Dr. D.P. Singh.
As President of Society of Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management, I welcome Professor H.L. Verma, Pro-Chancellor of JNUB, Professor Samir Singh, Vice Chancellor JNUB, Professor R.C. Agarwal, Deputy General Education, ICR, New Delhi, Professor R.N. Shibbar, Canadian Chair and Fellow SARAM, Dr. Soleman Ahmed, Community Health Expert, John Hopkins University, Dr. Manpreet Kaur, Byers, Crop Science, and former Global Head of Business Relations, Professor Rediker, co-Nobel Prize winner and on climate change and fellow of SARAM. Mrs. Mulu Suleiman, Ambassador of Ethiopian in Germany. So I welcome you wholeheartedly as President of SARAM. Then I will speak few words about the SARAM. The Society of Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management was established in 1997 with its headquarters at Haryana Agricultural University, Hisar. For sustainable progress in agriculture, food security, proper management of crops, field, tree, fruit, crops, natural resources, energy, livestock in an integrated manner is utmost important for proper health of ecosystem and human health. In this context, SARAM provides proper platform and organize large number of international conferences covering all crops, improvement, crop management of natural resources, energy, environment, for food security, and human health. SARM organized large number of conferences, workshops covering these aspects in India, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Canada, Poland, Denmark, Hungary, Turkey, and in a few other countries. SARM has nominated and selected a large number of fellows within India and abroad to promote such academic activities for sustainable progress of agriculture. SARM also provide need-based seed money on return basis for organizing conferences, workshops, and participation of PG students with some financial help in the form of traveling grant in India. We also organize the workshop to activate PG students and youth on key issues pertaining to sustainable agriculture in the country. The society also collaborates with IFSADA and share its office facilities in the University of Göttingen, located in the Mahatma Gandhi House in Germany. SARM has also very active, energetic, and intelligent organizing secretary, Dr. R.K. Bahl, who can be approached by academicians, planners, and students to organize multifarious activities and know more about the society, as he is working on this position since his inception in Haryana Agriculture University, Hisar, and interacting with the IFSADA officials in Germany. For sustainable food and nutrition security, integrated management of crops, trees, fruit crops, natural resources, inputs, energy is utmost important for proper health of human and ecosystem. Soil and land resources are having major problems. These are land degradation, diversion of fertile agricultural lands to non-agricultural purposes, decreasing the size of land holding, imbalanced nutrition, especially deficiency of sulfur, zinc, iron to support different crop system. Scientific land use planning, site-specific nutrient management, and precision farming, utilizing GIS, GPS, remote sensing, and other modern technologies are real solutions. Increasing organic matter of soil by all means is very utmost important to restore the primary health of the soil system. Water is very scarce and valuable resource, and all efforts should be made to conserve, manage, and utilize rainwater, proper treatment of brackish and sewage water, and practicing all water-saving devices, including moving from flood irrigation to sprinkler irrigation with drip irrigation along with horticulture. In my PhD program, I was also having one of the area air conditioning irrigation. This has not yet been practiced anywhere here. Then crop diversification and conservation of agriculture practices would greatly help in reducing water use and improving soil and ecosystem health. Climate change, all efforts should be made to mitigating and adaptive measures for controlling the ill effects of climate changes. Increasing forest cover is utmost important in this area. Extreme climate events such as floods and drought are causing major damage to agriculture and ecosystem, which need special attention in the present scenario. During this particular summer, the locust army created great damage to crops, trees, and fruit and vegetables in western India, which need effective management measures and at international level. Food and nutrition society security, doubling the income of farmers and providing regular employment is in rural areas are other important issues which need special attention of scientists and planners. At present, there are about 13,000 IFS models and 50 organic farming models operating in India. ISAR is also operating viable IFS models in about 200 villages in India, in which, on an average, the 150% profitable income has been generated. But we need now to double the income of the farmers. The inclusion of low volume and high value crops, including medicinal plant, is important in this regard. I am quoting some of the valuable contributions of innovative farmers. Mr. Kamal Singh Chauhan in village Atarna, Sonipat, is doing the mushroom cultivation, dairy, and baby corn, sweet corn, all organic product, and marketing them in Delhi. Then there is another fellow, Moni Thomas. He is located in Madhya Pradesh. Previously, the lag cultivation was on the tree plants or near and plus. Now he has invented to put the lac insect on PGNP, in which even under adverse weather conditions, they have put the soil on some container also in the field and growing PNP along with vegetables, flowers, and other things, and getting regular income of the farmers even in the worst condition or on stony soil. Then the farmers in Haryana, they are growing strawberry under very harsh condition. 40 to 45 degrees centigrade temperature during the month of May, June in village Narwa. They are collecting the quality planting material, the farmer crew in Pune, and they are bringing back that planting material for planting the strawberry in the month of October under whole drip system, organically managed, and under plastic culture. And then for restoring the seeding material, they are going to Kulu Valley for saving this material. Similarly, there are several examples in India where farmers are practicing in a very fruitful manner the organic and integrated farming system and doubling the income of the farmers. So, because of the paucity of time, I'm not going to detail, but the farming of the future will be technological based, and paradigm shift is needed in our approach to intensified sustainable agriculture total system. Even today, there is a significant gap between the potential yield and the farm level yields, which need to be bridged urgently. We need to focus on the following: large scale adoption of resource use efficient technology with a provision of incentive to promote their wide use. Field testing, integrated farming system models, crop, livestock, agri-horticulture, forestry, relevant to average farm holding, focusing on small and marginal farmers for different agro-ecosystem, must be upscaled in mission mode and assured market linkages for minimum support price. Formation of producer organization, farmer producer farmers organization to be promoted, and the complete chain from farm to fork addressed. IFS models can take care of diverse needs, nutrition security, livelihood enhancement, and climate change. The two vital natural resources, soil and water, provides a host of ecosystem services in addition to providing services like food production. And institutional mechanisms need to be put in place for payment of ecosystem services so that their sustainable management is guaranteed. The government of India has committed in the Paris 2015 meeting to reduce the greenhouse gas emission intensity by 30 to 35% of 2005 level by 2030. The strong policy support is needed to meet this commitment as well as achieving land degradation until 2030. The dietary changes of Indian population is to significant increase in the consumption of meat, eggs, dairy, fishery products. All these commodities would require factoring in for their water, land, and other input, including feed and fodder. A national mission of precision agriculture, including livestock fisheries, needs to be set up. Its focuses on utilization of modern tools and technologies like remote sensing, drones, sensors, decision support system, robotics, artificial intelligence, Internet of IoT, biotechnology, etc. So that more from less or more is essential for the millions of people located in Muslim countries like India.
Thank you, sir.
Organic farming must be promoted in rain-fed, hilly, and tribal regions. Citric rocks and with low or negligible fertilizer use and northeastern states, it is essential to have a holistic approach for organic farming with emphasis on organic input for pests, diseases, and weed control. There is also urgent need to have adequate processing and value addition systems in place for organic products as demand for safe, healthy, and nutritious food is increasing and each market, domestic and international exist. Post-harvest management policy is needed to establish agro-processing centers with warehouse, only storage facilities for raw and processed product and then marketing logistics in each panchayat, local bodies. Decentralized storage for grains, fruits, vegetables with public and government partnerships and block and adjacent to the agro-processing center and enhance funding for post-harvest research and development.
Sir, thank you. Sir, please cut short your speech.
I'm just completing. And incubation centers in each district for youth and launch a dedicated campaign for educating all stakeholders involved from farm to fork to minimize the losses in the supply chain. Use of renewable energy, alternate forms of energy like solar, bio, and wind-based application instead of fossil fuel need to be pursued in a big way. As the energy used in agriculture in India and other developing countries is still low compared to other developed countries. Availability of labor is going to be a major handicap in future. Mechanization, custom hiring centers, generally small farm implements that can cater to the source poor farmers must be promoted by the government for bringing efficiency, reducing drudgery and cost of cultivation. Adequate and dedicated funding should be provided for high-end research for futuristic technology like nanotechnology, climate adaptation and mitigation options, enhancing soil and water efficiency, and robotics. I thank the organizer to give me this opportunity to say a few words about the Society for Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management, and also to speak something about the sustainable development of agriculture in India and developing countries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you
thanks.
so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. In between, there was just a shortage of time. That is why. Otherwise, thank you so much, sir, for such deep insight and your valuable words, sir. I now would like to welcome Dr. Wolde Georges. He's from Germany. Very warm welcome, sir, from Jagannath University, India. Brief profile about Dr. Wolde Georges. Dr. Kasai Wolde Georges has obtained his PhD in polymer chemistry from Tübingen University, Germany. Sir has long association with African Asian Studies Promotion Association, AASF, and is a vice president in various capacities. He is executive secretary of International Foundation for Sustainable Development, IFSADA, since its inception in 2007. Sir has played a significant role in organizing all IFSADA international seminars and presented and published many papers. Once again, sir, welcome. Dr. Kasai Wolde Georges is here to say a few words about IFSADA and AASF Association. Dr. Georges, sir.
Thank you very much. Dear participants of our first webinar, let me first welcome all participants for our first webinar under the title Trends in Technology for Agriculture, Food, Nutrition, Environment, and Health. A special welcome to the Ethiopian ambassador in Germany, Her Excellency Mrs. Mulu Solomon, who is not only attending, but also will later address this conference as our chief guest. We from the International Forum for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia, under the auspices of the Afro-Asian Studies Promotion, had planned an international seminar this year in July in Göttingen, which had to be cancelled due to COVID-19. Allow me, as Vice President of the Afro-Asian Studies Promotion, to say a few words about our association and then about the inception of the International Forum for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia. Over 6 decades have passed since the foundation of our association, which was founded in 1959. What was the mystery of this association, or in other words, what was the kit which enabled this association to embark on different activities at the local and global stage? To establish a firm foundation for a common goal, challenges had to be overcome. In our case, the first challenge was to overcome the continental divide. With students coming from Africa and Asia in Göttingen, inspired by the non-aligned movement of the Cold War, created the Asian Students' Union in 1957. It culminated 2 years later in 1959 in the legally registered Association of the African and Asian Studies Promotion. The next challenge was overcoming the ideological divide as a result of the Cold War, which would have hampered truthful mutual understanding among its members. In 1969, with the help of the University of Göttingen and funds coming from the Volkswagen Foundation, our association was able to build a student hostel, previously called Afro-Asian Hostel, and since 1998, Mahatma Gandhi House, in which 130 students from Africa and Asia reside. The African Asian Studies Promotion had a great opportunity to consolidate its foundation when it was able to convince the German government of the importance of reintegration of academics from Africa and Asia upon the return to their respective home countries after years of stay in Germany. Funded by the German government, we were able to conduct 258 seminars in total from 1974 until 2009 in our association, at which 4,700 students from African and Asian countries participated, 2,400 from Africa and 2,300 from Asia. We were able to invite 125 returnees from various African and Asian countries to share their experiences with the participants. The results of the seminars during those years were publicized every 3 months in a magazine. On top of that, our association had an annual publication from 2001 until 2009, the authors being African and Asian academics. We also initiated the formation of returnee offices in some countries like Ghana, Iran, and Ethiopia. In my home country, Ethiopia, there is a well-established association called the Association of Ethiopians Educated in Germany, and I hope that Dr. Burhanu and other members of this association are participating at this seminar. When the reintegration seminar program phased out, it was time for our association to stand on our own. In one of the last reintegration seminars, at which Professor Richie Dehel was invited as a guest to returnee, we discussed about future activities of our association. In 2007, after 1 year of correspondence, we established the International Foundation for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia. In the following, I will quote what we formulated then in 2007 when the International Foundation was founded. I quote, "We, the Global Scouts, enthusiastic to shape changes for a better future, are committed to humanism, rationality, the development of global ethics, achieve peace and socio-economic progress without endangering the living conditions of all of us on our blue planet. Global Scouts particularly call upon the younger generation for initiative and active participation in international movements committed to the above-mentioned goals. Youngsters rely on the elder generation who have acquired knowledge and wisdom in understanding global interdependencies, which are not or seldom devoted to the benefit of the poor in many regions, countries, or continents, while the younger generation have the vitality to implement the local knowledge of the elders. A generational pact is needed to stimulate the fruitful cooperation of those who are knowledgeable and wise, and all those having a vision of a better future for mankind. The Global Scout movement for food, the initiatives of Global Scouts feel that they have to preserve the global intellectual heritage and have to foster dynamic processes of global ethics adapted to the demands of our endangered situation due to the man-made and natural catastrophes, wars, and man-made epidemic diseases. The Global Scout movement for food security and sustainable development is understood as a forum not only for discussion, but for tangible results through pragmatic planning and responsible action. Unquote. This was the vision we had when we founded the International Forum. Still all is valid today. Since then, and with the support of our coordinator for the global network of our association, Professor Richie Behill, international seminars were organized in Germany, Hungary, and Poland in cooperation with our institution. I think Dr. Machiavelli has shown the publications and the international seminars we have conducted. I don't want to repeat it here. Having established our network for organizing international conferences, we're aiming at international research and development projects, and for that matter, we want to make our forum a hub for global research in cooperation with our association, and by sending delegations of members for feasibility studies to launch projects of mutual interest. IT technology created new opportunities and platforms for mutual projects. This will enable us to continue our mission with dedication, devotion, conviction, and sincerity of the principles of sustainable development in developing countries. Our motto is to serve the unserved people with knowledge, expertise, and mobilization of resources from the developed world to developing countries. Thanks to Dr. Manfred Kern from Germany, Mrs. Muluworku from the Ethiopian Embassy in Berlin, and Mrs. Tanani Tadesse from Ethiopia for their support in conducting the first feasibility study for establishing projects in Ethiopia, like holding the first international conference on an African soil. In 2019, we launched a skills development project with the aim to establish a training center in the area of agriculture. This may find a multiplication effect in the future in other countries of Africa and Asia to fill the knowledge gaps by knowledge flow, mutual learning, and serve as global scouts for peace and social progress. Finally, I would like to give my special thanks to Professor Wolfgang Meerbach from Germany, Professor Arthur Riedecker from France, Professor Edward Arsenik from Poland, Professor Ravi Chabar from Canada, Professor Lachos Bona from Hungary, and Professor Ahmed Bakci from Turkey for their continued support to the mission of our association. With that, I thank you for your attention, and I wish the first webinar a success. Thank you. We don't hear you.
Oh, sir, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. Getting to hear you in itself becomes the sign of getting this webinar successful, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. Dr. Ravinder Chibar is here with us. I would like to welcome you, sir, in this international webinar on behalf of Jagannath University. Dr. Ravinder Chibar is a professor and Canada research chair in crop quality at the University of Saskatoon, Canada. Sir has obtained his PhD degrees from the Western University, London, Ontario, Canada, and Punjab University, Chandigarh, India. His research employs molecular, biological, and genomics strategies to improve grain seed quality and agronomic performance in cereal crops and grain legumes. In grain quality, his focus is to improve carbohydrates in grains to diversify their utilization in food, feed, and industrial applications. In crop performance, he works to improve abiotic stress tolerance to develop climate change resilient crops to increase crop productivity under adverse environmental conditions. Sir has supervised about 14 PhDs, 4 MScs, co-supervised, and several postdoctoral fellows. Sir has co-edited 3 books, co-invented 3 serial biotechnology patents, and 132 referred research papers. Sir is elected Fellow of AACC International, St. Paul, MN, USA, and ICC, Vienna, Austria. Sir, we are very grateful to have you here with us in this international conference. And once again, I would like to welcome you. And Professor Sugar will speak on the improvement of crops for the nutritional value. Professor Ravindra Sugar, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I guess everyone can hear me.
Yeah. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. So I'm going to start my presentations. I thank you very much for the invitation, Professor Bahal, for the invitation and for giving me this opportunity. And I see my friend, Dr. Manfred Kern, Dr. Kasai, and so I will start my presentation by sharing the screen.
Professor Chibar,
Yeah.
if it takes time to fix you the presentation, you can send it by email, and you can come as the next speaker. Machiavelli will present your PPTs on this side, and you can read it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Okay, fine.
So I'll send you the slides to Dr.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
To me, and okay.
Okay, sir. All right, sir. Thank you so much. You can be the next speaker, sir. Meanwhile, we have Dr. Ahmed Shamas Yusuf with us. Welcome, sir. On behalf of Jagannath University, I would like to welcome you in this international webinar. Welcome, sir. Brief introduction about Dr. Ahmed Shamas Yusuf. Sir has always had a keen desire to pursue healthcare since childhood. After the completion of his 12th standard, Sir has joined Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital Tertiary Care Center in Maldives as a clinical assistant. After serving 2 years as a clinical assistant in the emergency and surgical department, he has moved to India to pursue his MBBS from Institute of Medical Sciences from Banaras Hindu University as a Government of India candidate under full scholarship. Sir always had a special interest in community medicine and maternal health. Hence, after the completion of his MBBS, Sir has worked as a volunteer medical doctor for Lakshya Akriti Foundation in Delhi and organized health camps for children and adolescents. Sir has also organized maternal health and safe motherhood awareness programs for women who sought help from this organization. After this, Sir pursued his MPH from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in collaboration with IIHMR University, Jaipur. Sir has worked at the England Trust International for the study quality of intrapartum and immediate postpartum care of mothers and newborns and implementation research to catalyze performance of Lakshya program in 6 districts in India. Sir is currently a research fellow working in Grid Council, a non-profit organization committed to undertake and support population, hospital, and laboratory-based research to generate indigenous evidence and collate global research insights for the promotion of human health and development. Sir has a special interest in maternal health and non-communicable diseases. Once again, I would like to welcome Sir, and he's here to speak about the public health. Dr. Shamas Yusuf.
Thank you, Neha. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes. And you can see the presentation, right?
Yes, sir, we are able to see the presentation.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. The respected Chief Guest, Her Excellency, Ms. Mulu Solomon Bizunu, Professor H.L. Verma, Pro-Chancellor of Jagannath University, Bahadurgarh, India, Professor D.P. Singh, President of SSARM, India, Dr. Kasai Wald Georges, Vice President of AASF, Germany, the esteemed speakers, the organizations, Chief Moderator, Professor R.K. Bell, the organizations International Foundation for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia, African Asian Studies Promotion Association, Germany, Society for Sustainable Agriculture and Resource Management in India, Genetics, Epigenetic, Environment and Nutrition Towards Plant, Animal and Human Health, GEE and PAHH, India, the organizing committee, the local organizing committee, and the host university, Jagannath University, Bahadurgarh, India. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak at the 12th IFSDAA International Webinar. It is a great honor and privilege to address you here. Today, I'll be addressing about maternal health and nutrition and its challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic in India. First of all, I would like to cover some key facts by WHO that everybody will be aware of, but I would like to give this introduction since we'll be talking about maternal health. Every day in 2017, approximately 810 women died from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth. Between 2000 and 2017, the maternal mortality ratio dropped by about 38% worldwide. 94% of all maternal deaths occur in low and lower middle income countries. Young adolescents face a higher risk of complications and death as a result of pregnancy than other women. Skilled care before, during, and after childbirth can save lives of women and newborns. Complications during and following pregnancy and childbirth include severe bleeding, mostly proceed in childbirth, infections, usually after childbirth, and high blood pressure during pregnancy, which includes conditions like pre-eclampsia and eclampsia, complications from delivery, and unsafe abortion practices, which are quite common in LMICs and MICs. India, the second populous country in the world, contributes to the burden of maternal mortality, and the recent trends in maternal mortality by WHO, UNICEF, UNFPA, World Bank Group, and the United Nations Population Division shows that India and Nigeria, both which are lower middle income countries, had highest estimated numbers of maternal deaths. It accounts for approximately 1/3 of the population in the year 2017. A lot of issues arise, especially in low middle income countries and middle income countries, due to the poverty, access to healthcare facilities, lack of awareness, lack of resources, and poor quality of the services, cultural beliefs. These are barriers that needs to overcome for improvement of maternal health globally. As we all know, there's a role of nutrition when it comes to maternal health, and it also improves the outcomes of the infant. The role of maternal nutrition includes we all know that low nutrition status of mother plays an important role in increasing the prevalence of poor pregnancy outcomes. A nutrient-rich maternal diet before and during pregnancy is usually associated with improved fetal health, more appropriate birth weight, and increased rates of maternal and infant survival. Physician needs to better understand the role of diet in shaping fetal outcomes, as it plays an important role in the fetal outcomes. Control of maternal iron deficiency anemia by IFA tablets has been ongoing in maternal health programs throughout India. Adequate and appropriate food intake is also necessary, and I stress about appropriateness here, as maternal diets high in sugar and fat lead to an increased incidence of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases later in life, both mother and the child. Folic acid should also be supplemented prior to the conception and continued through at least the first 28 days of fetal life to prevent neural tube defects. Supplementation of calcium lowers the risk of preeclampsia and hypertensive disease in pregnancy. The role of maternal nutrition is quite vast, and it's important that mothers are on a proper diet in order to improve both the health of the mother and the outcome of the baby. Improving the mother's diet before and during pregnancy reduces the risk of medical problems for her and her infant. An elevated energy intake is usually associated with increased maternal weight gain, increased risk of hypertension, gestational diabetes, cesarean deliveries, macrosomia, childhood obesity in the offspring. And an inadequate energy intake is usually associated with low birth weight of the child and an increased risk of adult metabolic diseases, including type 2 diabetes. Due to the current ongoing pandemic, there have been quite a many disruptions when it comes to routine healthcare, and it is throughout the world. Disruptions to the routine healthcare such as ANC visits, immunizations, and institutional delivery has been noticed throughout India. There has been a decreased access to food, especially due to the imminent lockdown that has happened throughout nationwide. Disruptions in feeding practices has happened, and it is more eminent in rural areas where access to public facilities is difficult. While we are focused on dealing with the current pandemic, we should make sure that we don't lose our focus on the ongoing issues with regards to maternal health and nutrition, as it plays a key role in shaping the future. Now I would like to talk about telemedicine as part of, as due to the ongoing pandemic, a lot of disruptions had occurred when it comes to routine healthcare. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of Government of India issued telemedicine practice guidelines on the 25th March of 2020 after the lockdown that happened on 24th March 2020. During these times, with a global pandemic, access to healthcare has been compromised, and with a nationwide lockdown, it is imminent that we focus on providing routine healthcare and access to services without any disruption. Telemedicine is the remote diagnosis and treatment of patients by means of telecommunications technology like phone or text or emails. It reduces patient interactions and can be used for consultation, follow-ups, and except for emergencies, and it can be used for ANC checkups. India is not new to telemedicine services, and since the year 2001, the Indian Space Research Organization has established a telemedicine program. The government of Uttar Pradesh on 26th of this year, on 26th of April 2020, due to the suspension of outpatient services, the Director General of Medical Education, Government of UP, directed that 21 state-owned medical colleges to set up and initiate telemedicine services. Currently, while I'm taking part in a telemedicine study at my current workplace, Grid Council, and along with my colleagues, Dr. Abhimanyu S. Chauhan and Dr. Manish Kumar Singh from Ram Manohar Lal, Lucknow, Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow, we have found out that there's a lack of resources and issues with regard to day-to-day functions, issues of internet connections, and issues with regards to usage of technology by patients and bystanders, especially in rural areas of Uttar Pradesh. Ethical issues with regards to storage of data and information with regards to the patient and breach of this data are concerns that we are currently looking into. We expect that the COVID-19 aftermath, more and more institutions will have to develop telemedicine capacity, and understanding the enablers and barriers to setting up such facilities will help to generate critical insights for immediate programmatic translation and scale out. This program has been facilitated by the leadership of these institutes and the government, and doctor to patient telemedicine and doctor to doctor telemedicine is currently carried out in Uttar Pradesh. Going forward, we need to understand that sustainable means of improving maternal health and preparation of services needs to be improved, as at current times with a global pandemic going on, this needs to be tackled, as a decrease in these services would lose our sustainable development goal. Increasing accessibility and decreasing inequalities in access to quality reproductive and maternal health services, especially during these difficult times of pandemic, is crucial. Innovations in telemedicine to further improve the experience of mothers and improving access to IEC material to increase the awareness is very important, and these may include better digital security and applications that can be used to provide the services. I would like to note that the Government of India currently uses an application called eSanjeevani, which has been able to roll out a lot of consultations for patients. We should not forget that we have been on a journey to attain sustainable development goals, and that the current challenges we face should be tackled cleverly with evidence and knowledge. Thank you very much. Neha. Hi.
Are we audible, sir?
Yes. Now you're audible. Yes, that's it. I'm.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir, for sharing such technical and such interesting facts with all of us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, sir. Meanwhile, Professor Shibir.
Yeah, Ahmed, we have one more organization, Opera, and I would recommend you to join that. This is a World Forum for Optimal Pregnancy Risks. So I have your details and I will forward it to Canadian headquarters so that your research and your real group work gets more meaningful. Okay?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, and congratulations. Thank you, sir. Meanwhile, Professor Ravinder Shivan is here with us. Sir, we have got your presentation,
Okay.
and you will start with your presentation, sir. Dr. Machiavelli will be sharing the presentation from this side.
Will I see the slides or not? No?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you will be able to see this.
So yeah, you can start the presentation.
So just a second, sir.
So meanwhile, while they're setting up, I thank organizers for giving me this opportunity. And what I'm going to speak this, I don't know, it's midnight here, past midnight. So is about, yeah, sure. Can we do
So
that?
you can see your
Yeah,
presentation.
okay, good. So sustainable agriculture and diet diversity for improved food and nutritional security. This has been based upon almost more than 30 years of research, what has been going on in my lab. And we have as co-authors some of my long-term colleagues, Dr. Monica Vega, Dr. Ganeshan, and Dr. Jaiswal. So next slide. So what I'm going to discuss, give you a brief outline, and then how the population change and especially climate change, and what we have now is this regenerative agriculture. And I specifically included this topic because when I come to Jagannath University, Professor Bahel has a very interesting experiment going on there. So, and it has been a topic which has been of lot of interest here. And even in our college, in our department, people are developing courses at the undergraduate level. And how then the next focus will be on food diversification. And since time is only about 15 minutes, so I'll just give some ideas and then we'll go from there. Next, please. So this is my main research, as Neha said, is based on grain composition, focusing on different components, how we can use them to improve human health. And then the second portion is on crop performance, developing climate change resilient cereal crops, and that's where the regenerative agriculture comes into play. Next, please. So this is just, everyone knows that the global population is increasing, and the increase is more in the less developed countries rather than the fully developed countries. Next, please. And the one thing which is very important on this slide is that the life expectancy is increasing no matter where you live in the world. And that is where the fourth part of the agriculture comes into play, that how we can have better lifestyle as we grow older and how agriculture can help that. Next, please. And this is, I put two big countries here, like China, which is and India. And the main thing which I want to point out here is that the average income is increasing over time, no matter whether you live, whether you are in China or India. The middle income or upper middle income is growing, and you can see that there are two charts from different years and in the future. So what does this do is, if people have more money, their lifestyle changes, and also their expectations change. Like they want to have more from a animal vegetable based diet or to plant based diet to animal based diet, and all these have implications on the environment and on human health, and that's what I'm going to focus. Next, please. So to summarize this introduction, so people are living longer, there is increasing affluence, and since there are more people, we have a diminishing land base for agricultural production, and it also affects health and well-being. And one point which is missing here is the homogenization of food. And by homogenization of food, I mean, like if you see about 30 or 40 years ago, every country had their specific food habits. But now, if you go everywhere, you find fast food chains, you find hamburgers and hot dogs. And this has been going on even in the least developed countries. People are going there. And this is one thing which we often omit or overlook, that this homogenization food causes a lot of health changes, which I'll show you in the next slide. Next, please. And what other thing is happening is, because of these anthropogenic activities or human activities, there is a big influence on climate change. There are climate change induced changes in the environment. We know about the storms. We know about the fires in California and in Western Canada. The rising sea levels and so on and so forth. So these are all the changes which are causing in the environment with the growing population. And this affects agriculture and this affects human health. Next, please. So what is regenerative agriculture, which is a system of farming principles and practices that increases biodiversity, enriches soils, improves watersheds, and enhances ecosystem services. So there are a lot of loaded words in this. Is increasing biodiversity, that's what I'm going to focus. And if we do the agriculture in the right way, it enriches soil. You can see the experiment going on at Jagannath University, which Professor Bahel has been guiding for the last few years since I've been there. And improving the watersheds, but the main thing is enhance the ecosystem services. So this is what this regenerative agriculture, which is especially very important in African countries too, because they are getting into this at this stage. And so that is what we want to focus on. And I'm going to give my ideas how this regenerative agriculture can come into play, and what do I mean, especially by increasing the biodiversity and food diversification. The benefits are efficient capture of carbon in the soil and above ground biomass, reverses global climate change, increases crop yields, resilience of plants to climate change, and improved health and vitality of farming communities. I will just keep on giving some examples of this. Next, please. So when we say the regenerative agriculture or improving the soil, a good example is in temperate climates like Canada and Northern Europe, to grow winter crops. Like in Canada, we work on winter wheat, and now we are also working in collaboration with the EU and a German group in about 7 or 8 different countries in the European Union on sustainable rye project. So the winter wheat or the winter cereals in temperate climates, they are one of the best environmental crops. They provide ground cover in the fall and in the spring, and then they yield more. They also provide undisturbed nesting habits because they are seeded in September. We just finished seeding for the winter crops in about a week ago, and we will harvest them in the next August or so. Whereas the spring crops are seeded in May and they are harvested in August, and then the ground lays barren for rest of the time. So this is what I mean about what we work on the abiotic stress and the climate change, or one part of the regenerative agriculture, if we can grow more and more winter crops in temperate climates so that the ground stays covered. Next, please. This is just to show you that even when the snow is there, you can see there is some ground cover there. And this is just from a other presentation I have, how the crops survive in the winter. Next, please. So now we come to food and nutritional security. This is just a basic definition. All individuals at all times have the physical, social, and economic access to adequate amounts of safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs, food preferences, and active and healthy life. So food security is if you provided food, but now nutritional security, it should be nutritious food for a healthy lifestyle. Next, please. And I show all this slide that it can be two different ways, calorie deficient and calorie rich. Both these groups of people are, if you see, they are not getting the full nutrition. And this is what I mean by homogenization of food, and this is scarcity of food. But in both cases, people are not getting, so there is not enough nutritional security. Next, please. So this is let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. This is what is the basic principle of agriculture as we see it today. Next, please. So this is the reason I put this slide up is this is the Canada Food Guide. Earlier we had a pyramid, now we had a food plate. And what the reason I show you this here is if you focus, there is a lot more plant-based foods and diversity, like there are beans, there is quinoa, there is so on and so forth, and very little meat or meat products. So they say eat variety of healthy foods, plenty of vegetables and fruits, protein foods, whole grain foods, water should be the drink of choice. And the main focus, what this has done is they have gone to show people or the Canadian population that there are diversity of food grains which should be in your diet. Two things, the production of animal-based or meat products is a lot more environmentally expensive as compared to plant-based. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but just as a basic principle. Next, please. So when we come to the food and nutrition, and the major challenges which we are facing is this weight-related problems, which kind of cause several other problems like cardiovascular, diabetes, and so on. It's all based on, we all need to have carbohydrates to give us energy. And when you take intake a starch-based food, there is food which is digested very soon, slowly digested, and non-digested. This is the main objective of this slide. Next, please. And I'll connect this to later on. So we can have readily digestible starch, slowly digestible starch, and resistant starch. Next, please. And these are the various factors. I'm not going to go into the details of this. Next, please. So over the last 30, 35 years in my lab, we have worked with a whole range of crops, analyzing their carbohydrates. And now what we are looking for is that which are the carbohydrates which are more beneficial for health, especially from slowly digestible carbohydrates or resistant starch. So we started with wheat, which was my main area. We went to barley, triticale, canary seed. Now we are focusing on quinoa. This is the latest project which we got funded with the help of a company and National Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. I'll explain to you why we went to quinoa. Then the other new project is mung beans, which is very common in India. We are trying to see there is a company interested which wants to grow these in Canada. Faba bean, we just completed a project on the digestibility and how it can be used to control glycemia. Lentils and chickpeas, of course, chickpeas has been my favorite for a long time. Next, please. So one crop from the Canadian perspective, we started, we didn't work on it, but we want to promote because the native population in Canada, they grow this wild rice, which is in the lakes up north, in the northern part of Saskatchewan. And they have been using this crop for a long, long time. But now, currently, if you go to the next slide, please. So if you see the white long grain rice, brown rice, and wild rice is one of the most healthy in terms of protein, less carbohydrates, more dietary fibers, and more moisture. The reason I showed that was because in native population, diabetes and overweight is one of the most prevalent health effect nowadays. Then the next thing is the quinoa. If you see, it's a pseudo cereal native to Andean region, Chenopodium quinoa. And if you again see here, it has much better protein. Much higher protein. And the protein in quinoa is very similar to the milk-based proteins. Okay. So, and this is a crop which is gaining popularity in North America now, and this is one we are going to look to work on how to make varieties which have even better health benefits than what is naturally there. Next one. And this is again, it shows you comparing to the other crops, quinoa is a much healthier crop, and we didn't show the amino acid composition here. Next, please. The small millets are very popular in the northern part, in the Uttarakhand region or in the northern Himalayan region of India, and also in China. And they are also, they have a lot of the micronutrients which are beneficial for health. And there are all different kinds of millets. And the one example which I saw in China was there was so much of this yellow pigment or carotenes in there, which would be very beneficial for human health. Next, please. Just like golden rice. This is, I wanted to show that they are also very native crops to the different regions of the world or India. Next, please. So the challenges in small millets is grain composition is not well characterized. We don't have grain carbohydrate, although there is a student in Dehradun at the Graphic Era University who is working on grain carbohydrates. And there's a lot of natural variation, and there is also characterization of available and unavailable carbohydrates. Next, please. Then chickpea is a very good environmentally friendly crop. It's leguminosae, nitrogen fixation, high protein source. And we have spent a lot of time on chickpea, but I don't have time here. We have found lines which have more resistant starch. Next, please. So this one, since our focus was here on African countries, and since Dr. Kasai is here, so teff, I have been interested in teff for a long time. And when I was reading about teff, the thing which really interests me as I started my presentation with resistant or slowly digestible starch, that is very important. And if you see, Ethiopia has produced Olympic champions in athletics, and the reason why athletes prefer, or in Ethiopia it was being consumed as such, because teff has very high amount of resistant starch. If you see 20 to 40%. So what does this do? Resistant starch is slowly digestible, so the athletes can run for longer time, can play for longer time if they are like in basketball or in hockey. So even in lentils and chickpeas, resistant starch is higher. The amylose content is higher, and resistant starch. And there have been experiments done at the University of Saskatchewan where they made bars out of these pulses for the athletes to give it to them, or they give pasta made of pulses mixed with durum wheat. But TEF has even higher than the pulses. And that is a very important thing. It is preferred by athletes, and it can also be used for weight control. And of course, they have other high fiber and more protein. So TEF could be a very, very important grain from where it is grown or it originated, and also it will help the local population. All these crops which I showed you, they can help in the food diversity and reduce this homogenization of food which we have seen, which is responsible for many of the challenges which we face nowadays. But these are also the crops which are not well studied. And the more we study, the better product we can make out of them. And that will not only benefit the local communities, but it will also have health benefits, which will reduce the health care. And that is what has been my philosophy of thinking in the last 5 or 7 years since, that grow the crops, it reduces. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just an example. We did a study or a colleague of mine in the United States. They found that there was a resurgence of plant-based foods, vegan, vegetarian foods, food choices, health and safety was one, environment, generational effects, and flexitarian that reduce the meat consumption. A study was done where it was found in the United States that nowadays people would like to have a vegetarian diet at least once a week. Next, please. Next slide. So the benefits of food diversification is utilize locally adapted crops, which also encourage regenerative agriculture, like mix pulse crops with cereal crops. In India, this has been going on for a long, long time. That chickpeas was mixed with wheat and harvested together, milled together. And what I call is heterogenization of foods, not homogenization, which is promoted by the big companies and by the fast food chains. But we should focus on heterogenization of foods, which will have health benefits and also environmental benefits, because if you use the food which is grown locally and used locally, there is a reduction in transportation, plus it will improve the local economy. So this is the message from my presentation, which I prepared for this, is like we should have environmental benefits, we can have health benefits, and we can also benefit the local economy if we diversify the food products and also use the crops which are grown locally rather than moving large amount of food material from one place to another. And thank you very much for the time and opportunity to present some of my ideas and give some examples. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Chibar. I know that it's already midnight in Canada, and I wanted to add more studies maybe we can do together in future. You have focused mainly on resistant starch, but we can also include antioxidant foods in our research.
Yeah.
Like black wheat, black rice could be another segment, because nowadays the environmental health hazards as well as the food homogenization will lead to oxidative stresses. And we need to diversify food for antioxidant properties. And maybe next time when you come, we'll provide you a bunch of black wheats and black rices, which you can include in your research. That's very nice, very nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such an interesting presentation with all of us. Thank you so much, sir. Meanwhile, I would like to welcome Dr. R.C. Agarwal. He is here with us. Welcome, sir. On behalf of Jagannath University, I'd like to welcome you, sir. Dr. R.C. Agarwal. Dr. R.C. Agarwal is the Deputy Director General Education in ICAR. Sir is an Agricultural Research Services ARS scientist and is an alumnus of the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi. Sir has spent 20 years working in the field of plant genetic resources at Indian Council of Agricultural Research, National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, ICAR, NBPGR. As the Registrar General of Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Authority for 8 years, was directly responsible for the implementation of PPV and FR Act 2001 in India. During year 2018, Sir was elected by the Secretariat of ITP-GRFA of the United Nations to lead a group of implementation of farmers' rights, which has 146 countries. Dr. Agarwal is the recipient of first prestigious Dr. B.R. Barwale National Award for the Excellence in Plant Genetic Resources. He has visited more than 20 countries as part of the Indian delegation. Presently, Sir is the Deputy Director General Education, ICAR, and National Director, National Agricultural Higher Education Project, ICAR World Bank, and is providing directions for improving the quality of higher education in agriculture and attracting youths for pursuing careers in agriculture and allied sectors. He has initiated many steps to attract young and talented students towards agricultural education. So we are very proud and glad to have you here with us in this international webinar. A very warm welcome, sir. And sir is going to speak about the emerging scenario in agricultural education. Dr. R.C. Agarwal.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, we are
Yes.
able to see you.
Screen.
My screen sharing.
Screen is not visible yet, sir.
Screen is not.
I don't know what is the problem. I mean, can I just speak without the screen then?
Yes, yes, I know.
Sure, sir.
Sir, you have two choices.
Okay.
One is that you send
Actually,
us.
there is some.
Yeah,
I
there
am
are
using
two-
my Mac map.
Yeah, sir.
Are
there
you able to see now? Still?
No, still not.
Yeah.
So there are two choices with you. One is you send me your PPTs and come as the next speaker. They will be available. We will display it like the previous speaker for Professor Siddharth.
Okay.
And
What
we
is
can
what is
have
the
one
email ID?
speaker. Email ID is you have sent me the email rkbehlprof rkbehlprof @gmail.com.
Okay. I will just
So
send.
you may come as next speaker and we can have one
Sure,
speaker.
sure.
Those slides are there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, sir, we'll be waiting for your presentation.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sir. Meanwhile, I'd like to welcome Dr. Manfred Kern. He's here with us. A very warm welcome, sir. Sir is here from Germany.
Hello.
I would again like to welcome you, sir, in this international webinar on behalf of Jagannath University. Dr. Manfred Jacob Kern was born in Germany. Sir has studied zoology, botany, physiology, biochemistry, microbiology, wine chemistry, and genetics at Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, Germany. In 1982, Sir has earned his doctorate in Mainz on the subject of brain aging in insects. 2 years later, he joined Hoechst AG in Frankfurt, where he worked in biological research department crop protection in the areas of insect physiology, resistance, selectivity, and integrated pest management. In 1995, he became global head of the project Future of Agriculture Vision 2025-2050, a comprehensive and still running study on the safeguarding of the world food supplies. Over the foregoing 30 years, Sir has held key positions in science and technology, strategy, marketing, and communications. Since 2004, he's teaching as senior fellow of the Center of Development Research at the Friedrich Wilhelms University of Bonn, Germany. Since 2011, he's managing director of Agri Excellence GmbH, an international communication and consulting company in Germany. Dr. Kern has more than 150 publications to his credit and has given over 1,000 presentations at international congresses, conferences, symposia, and workshops. Sir has been awarded by different organizations for significant accomplishments in the field of innovations in agriculture. In 2007, the Secretariat of UNCCD, that is the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, recognized Dr. Kern by upholding his title as Eminent Person. A very warm welcome, sir. We are very glad to have you here with us on this platform. Dr. Kern would speak about the plant-based meat alternatives. Dr. Manfred Kern.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Well, a warm welcome to all participants of the webinar, and let me say, especially for the young generation, because I'm talking about your future, and I hope you can enjoy the next 15 minutes. Well, the title of my presentation is like that, Meat Alternatives, especially plant-based meat. I'm not talking about cellular agriculture or about insect food or something like that. A lot of parameters are similar, but they have their specific aspects as well. And the question is related to the story, meat alternatives will blow up agriculture in future by 2025 and 2050. Will it be a revolution or will it be a regeneration? What was said by Professor Shiva. Next one. Next, please. So, meat alternatives, on the one hand side, means meat or no meat. That's a question. It's not the question at the end. And let me start with the introduction to rephrase the following. There's no discussion about the fact that everybody must eat. Nevertheless, this fundamental need was globally addressed by the United Nations in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care and necessary services in 1948. How this should be done was not outlined at that time. And at the beginning of the third millennium, we all know that this human right is not being realized worldwide. Enabling food and nutrition security by closing the protein gap today and by 2050 are ongoing challenges. And between 2015 and 2050, more than a doubling of crop production, a nearby doubling of meat production, this has to be rephrased by the fact of COVID-19 impact, a tripling of plant-based protein production, a tripling, and a tripling of fruit and vegetable production is necessary to feed 9.7 billion people living on Earth in a healthy way. Next. Next one means food security, 1864, 2074. Hunger is increasing in the year of 2020 and will increase until 2030. Next one. Meat market in Port Louis, Mauritius. It's all set. And this is now the new trend. Meat, our innovative concepts means, next one, that we are now on the way to produce alternative meat based on plants. Next one. Let me sum up a broad spectrum of parameters concerning the pros and cons and the impact of plant-based meat on meat production. The pros are summed up like that, mainly attacking factory farming, the beef sector, but other sectors as well, challenging the production methods of conventional animal production, triggering the restructuring of the livestock industry, revolutionizing the whole meat sector, is creating new jobs, pushing improvements in the whole agro industry, is supported by public and private funds, promoted by the health sector, plant-based meat, pushed by the food industry, improving the market efficacy, far less time and waste, greater responsiveness, especially seen during the COVID-19 pandemic 2020, is stabilizing the local and global food chain. The food nutrition security is an efficient and effective technological innovation, reducing is an efficient and effective technological innovation producing protein, is fostering research and development in order to minimize prices for consumers.
Dr. Khan, very sorry to interrupt you, sir, in between. Sir, can you please be a bit louder, sir, because your voice is, not that much
Louder?
audible. A bit louder, sir.
Okay, I try to do my best. Is it better?
Yeah,
That's
sir.
better.
Yes, sir. It is better, sir.
Okay, I do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's intensively promoted by media. They are using simplified consumer messages, taste in food was liquid food, using the positive impact on human health and the whole health sector, creating health claims, contributing to personalized nutrition, using the issue of global climate change problems, using the fact of reduced utilization of key resources, using the issue of antibiotics resistance, using the animal welfare issues, using the no-go for killing animals, establishing ethical standards, developing a well-sounding story, doing more with less, better, and in time with less waste. Next one. On the other hand side, you can see a broad spectrum of con parameters, impact of plant-based meat on meat production. The cons are, it said, highly processed, ultra highly processed, not more healthy, not natural, not organic, only technical material, only functional, fake. Taste is not the same than real meat, only a new food market segment, expensive and only for rich people, not solving the problem of hunger. Some sustainable open pasture and other types of livestock farming may be actually better. Proper nutrition can be questionable. Health effects are mostly unknown. Long-term effects are not analyzed up to now. Needs a lot of energy, destroys functioning markets, removes jobs in the livestock sector, revolutionizes the whole agro sector, needs more research and development, not properly regulated, not clearly labeled. Mixtures are open for increased food frauds and not in line with a lot of eating cultures. And there will be a lot of black swans, which are not known up to now. Next. These are all arguments from both sides, not discussing that in detail. But if you have a look on the economic outlook in this meat alternative area, you can see that looking in the papers of analysts, macro research agencies, or think tanks, that at the moment the market is close to $7.3 billion US. In 2027, it's forecasted there's an increase by a factor of 10. That's a lot, to a level of $74.2 billion in 2030, where we should have zero hunger in the world. The market is $85 billion US, and it's forecasted that in 2040 we will have a market size of $240 billion US. So today we have round about 1% of the global meat market based on meat alternative or plant-based crop, and in 2040 we will come up to 10%. Well, we should be very critical and skeptical about conclusions derived purely from papers prepared for investors only. Papers are often describing positive perspectives based on given premises, and that most important critical issues will be tackled in a positive way. Nevertheless, all arguments, facts, figures, and questions raised by such papers about this new branch of food industry should be carefully considered by all members of the meat value chains in order to improve significantly the animal production systems and to be in line with the requirements of the societies as soon as possible. COVID-19 pandemic 2020 was a springboard for alternative meat companies. I will talk about that later on. Next one. So, in general, to make the story short, meat alternatives are discussing the following or claiming the following: go green, go clean, go plant-based. And do it for your health, do it to save the planet, and do it to save the animals. These are the key credos of the new spectacles in agriculture and food production. And summing up the whole story, referring to Burton in 2019, the potential impact of synthetic animal protein on livestock production, there is a new war against agriculture. A new war against agriculture. So having a look on the actual situation and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic 2020 on plant-based meat and the meat market, we have to consider the following. First, 1/3 of the global population is in a lockdown situation. We have never had, we have the closed borders, etc. We have seen panic buying and storage of food. And there is a significant disruptor to the meat food supply chain, temporarily empty supply of beef and pork in supermarkets, losses in the global meat supply chain during 2020. This is a loss in the dimension of around about 20 billion US dollars. And what I've said, it was a springboard for alternative meat companies offering and feeding 1 million plus by plant-based burgers. And we have to consider that the consumers were forced to face issues. For example, health of the workers in the meat plants, for example, around about 35,000 people, meatpacking workers were positive for COVID-19. The ethical treatment of animals were coming up more and more. Closed slaughterhouses triggered euthanasia of millions of animals. Billions of pounds of meat were destroyed. Traditional meat distribution channels, restaurants, schools, etc. were closed. And the risk of losses resulting from animal diseases such as outbreak of avian influenza, foot and mouth disease, or now actually more and more in Europe, African swine fever, are in front of us. The resistance of antimicrobials, and overall, the key issue is the health awareness and the anxiety over food safety. Next. Will alternative meat blow up livestock farming in future by 2025 and 2050? Yes, it will, definitely. And the challenges for livestock farming are the following ones. Well, meat was always a part of human diet, and it will continue to be so in future. However, no one can live in a comfort zone any longer, and the whole meat production industry has to find its own narrative. It has to be innovative and has to improve the whole value chain in a sustainable way. Future-oriented stakeholders within the livestock industry are demonstrating that it is possible to be in line with the necessary changes requested by societies. Companies, farmers, or livestock associations should create a new function I would name Eco-Tech Scouts. They should check technical innovations along the different national meat value chains, from fossil-free crop production via fossil-free live production, meat processing, packaging, or transport and distribution, which can be integrated in order to produce the first fossil-free and emission-free meat. This would definitely be the fourth revolution in agriculture and improve our life and the future generations in the most sustainable way. I guess this type of real clean meat will be possible earlier than 2030. Let's see which company will come up first. Next. Will alternative meat blow up agriculture in future by 2025, 2050? Agriculture, not only livestock. Yes, it will. Triggered by the involvement of hundreds of stakeholders and new startup companies within the food industry by implementing a new plant-based or cellular, in parentheses, new meat alternative food segment, more or less all agriculture production systems from agro inputs, specific seed developments, implementation of new crops, smart pest control methods, new fertilization methods, smart agro machineries and smart agro technologies, artificial intelligence, cyber physical systems, and Internet of Things will be significantly changed. It is obvious that this will shape the whole landscape in a lot of agricultural area in the world. I have not the time to talk about the examples in Canada or in Europe. The change is fully in line with the key slogan of Agri Excellence saying, do more with less, do it better, and do with less waste and emissions and in appropriate time. This is very important, in appropriate time. Next. What does plant-based meat mean to Africa? Plant-based meat products will flood the markets in Africa very soon. Will not be developed in Africa itself, will be imported, will pay a relative high price, will improve the level of food security, will fit to cultural eating habits, has no priority for the international companies. This must be changed and will be changed. Investments and startups are on a low level in Africa. Entrepreneurs have a new attractive business field and they should go for that. Research and development in this area is not on the agenda in international organizations. For now, using plant-based protein instead of animals has no bearings, as many pastoral communities in Africa view cattle and animals as a sign of wealth. Scientists developing plant-based protein products believe cattle animals are an unsustainable food supply. However, we have to consider cattle are an increasing, or animals are an increasing important resource to millions of Africans as sustainable source of food and wealth. Next. So let's go for a bigger picture. Let's go for a biovision. I like that 4 to the power F to the power of 4, a fossil fuel free farming 2050 system focusing on the following. Let's go for a fossil fuel free biomass production, for fossil fuel free fertilization of crops by seed improvements, we are microbiomes, for fossil free crop protection, this is possible, a fossil fuel free irrigation, we are solar and wind, that's possible, fossil fuel free land management practice, knowing that soil is more valuable than gold, this we have to consider more and more, fossil fuel free powered mechanical agricultural production systems, tractors, agrotons, John Deere, electro tractors, robots, no tillage, etc. The fossil fuel free smart farming triggered by GPS, drones, and apps. A fossil fuel free new added value chains on farms, decentralized, fully integrated hybrid systems, aquaponics and aeroponics. A fossil fuel free cross-functional functions on farms and biorefineries by using and producing biogas, biodiesel, bioethanol, solar, wind, water, power to gas, etc. A fossil fuel free transportation system, a fossil fuel food goods processing, a fossil fuel free supermarket, distribution center and outlets, a fossil fuel free cooking at home, and at last, fossil fuel free bioeconomy or industrial ecology. Well, a biovision sustainable bioeconomy should be considered by everyone who is working in research and development, especially in food production or in agriculture. This bioeconomy concept is relatively new. Bioeconomy is a knowledge-based production of utilization of biological resources and so forth. But I want to highlight 5 key issues at the end. The following 5 areas are recommended and be considered. The first keyword is dematerialization. Do more with less. Save resources, for example, by digital farming. Decarbonization. Do it better. Replace fossil fuels in agriculture with renewable energy. Recycling. Do it without waste. Establish biorefinery systems. Regeneration of natural resources. Do it in order to safeguard biocapacity. save rare and essential factors by implementing smart processing systems. And of course, regeneration of resources means the seeds. Rearrangement of resources. Do it by creating values. Use modern biotechnology and microbiomes methods in crop improvement. And what I've said, do it in an appropriate time. Authorize, regulate necessary methods, future oriented if possible. So the take home message at the end, we have to consider that we have leading from the future. Think about that, leading from the future. You have to think about what future will be and act in a future-oriented manner. To act in a future-oriented manner. We can talk a lot. We have a lot of webinars and we have a lot of books and we are a lot of good thinkers, but we have to act. And therefore, I say to the young generation, do the best. And many thanks for your kind attention. Stay healthy and think positive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manfred. I must say, in abstract, that the soul of Mahatma Gandhi will bless you today on his birthday. Reason being, the subjects you have covered were very dear to him. He was champion of the bioeconomy, rural bioeconomy. And if I calculate very safely, the only cattle dung can transform the economy of India. 500 million tons is there if it is properly processed for green energy in agriculture, green nutrition in agriculture. It can change the shape of Indian agriculture. Another thing is that you have embarked on all facets of the title of the webinar, that is agriculture. Technology for agriculture needs to be changed if the protein-rich foods have to be grown in different environment. And then foods, food patterns have to be changed, food preferences have to be changed, nutrition. The food provided by the plant-based meat alternatives will be rich in immunological properties, enhancing the physical strength through proteins and through enzymes and amino acids, etc., the immunological properties of the human health. And environment, since you have embarked on green energy sources, this will be making the environment benign and sustainable, increase the soundness of the environment, and all these will affect the human health. Therefore, your lecture has covered all the aspects and very well complemented with the previous lectures of Professor Chibar, Professor D.P. Singh, because they also embarked on these things. But you have exemplified each aspect like that. I also wish to say that your proposal for plant-based meat alternatives is very good, because if I consider the bioenergetics of growing protein through plant-based foods and through animals, on bioenergetic levels, the plant-based choice is much simpler, much less costly, and much less energy consumption is needed. Therefore, it is a more people-friendly approach. Another thing is that the protein efficiency ratio and protein digestibility of plant-based meat alternatives will be much more than the livestock-based meat foods. Therefore, your proposal is ethically strong, technologically strong, environmentally benign, and pro-human health. God bless you, Manfred.
Oh, thank you so much, sir, for your nice compliment and statement concerning Mahatma Gandhi on the one hand side.
Yeah.
And we have not the time to go into debate now, but or in the chat now. But I'm closing in the presentation to Professor Shiba. I have not the time to give an overview on Canadian modification or reorganization of the landscape in Canada. They are in front. How they are moving from carbohydrate crops to protein type crops. And today or yesterday, let's say that yesterday there's an announcement of a French company. They are creating the biggest plant, the biggest pea protein plant in Canada with a capacity of 120,000 tons, the biggest in the world. You see that the whole agricultural system is changing by how. That's really a revolution based on the modification of food in the near future. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
आगे उनकी
Thank you, sir.
मैप
Thanks.
आगे उनकी मैप
Professor R.C. Agarwal is here with us. Professor Agarwal.
Yes, I'm here.
Did you get my presentation?
Yes, sir, we have received your presentation and we are ready to share this presentation from this side.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
being sir, we are able to see your presentation on screen now.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So can I start now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Bahel,
Yeah.
Honorable Chief Guest for today, Her Excellency Solomon, all the panelists. Thank you very much, first of all, for accommodating the odd man out, because you are all talking about the food, but I'm all talking about the education. But education is equally important. If you want to take any message, we have to create our human resources. We have to attract the young talent minds for the agriculture education. And what trend we have found is that most of the students, while deciding their career, the agriculture education is not by choice. So that's what now we are trying through the agriculture education system in India, and we are getting a good success in this. So I'll just give some landscape of agriculture education in India next. Uh, can you change the slide? Yeah. So we have a huge network of education in India. If you know, I think recently our government has come out with a new education policy, which we have started implementing in India, and there are a lot of things. But in agriculture, if you see, uh, first of all, let me thank Dr. Bahel for organizing this workshop on this important day of Mahatma Gandhi. So agriculture education is totally based on the Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy. Whatever you see, how to take villages with you, how to create more entrepreneurs, and if you see the speakers who have given a lot of thoughts today, that how to go for vegetarian diets, other things. So our all efforts are being made in that particular direction. How to create the students, how to make the students ready for the future, to keep all these things ready. So we have around 980 universities in India and about 40,000 colleges and huge network you can see. But the problem is that we have a very low gross enrollment ratio of 26.5%, which now we have to increase to 50% by 2035. That is as per the new education policy. And if you talk for the agriculture education, we have around 74 universities. Out of this 980 universities, 74 universities, they belong to the agriculture. And we have around 47,000 students in the agriculture against this number which I've given, 34.6 million students in total in higher education. And we are known as a nation of young people because we have been bestowed upon with a demographic advantage. Out of a total population of about 1.3 billion in India, we have 672 million. That means
Professor Agarwal?
RX Agarwal.
Can you change the slide, please? Hello?
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
we had lost your connection. Now you're back, sir.
The slide is changed.
No. Can you change the slide? I'm asking.
Change the slide.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we have through Indian Council of Agricultural Research, we have the education division through which we are having the mandate to plan, promote, and coordinate the agricultural education system in India. And through this system, we are trying to enhance the quality and the relevance of the higher agriculture education. And we are also trying to strengthen the agriculture university system, which I told we have 74 agriculture universities, including all your veterinary science, animal science, fishery science, horticulture, everything is coming under these 74 universities. Next. And that's what I told you. We have the total intake of around more than 45,000, including UG, PG, and PhD program, which we are conducting an All India exam to attract the young talented minds toward the agriculture education. And for that, we have changed a lot of things in the syllabus, in the system, to make these students more entrepreneurs oriented. Next. So I'll just can you change slide? So we are focusing mainly on three parts through our education division. One part is education planning and home science. The second is human resource development, and the third part is education quality assurance and reforms. And if you see in the planning, we are having one very key component, which I shall discuss, that is the student ready program. Under student ready program, the undergraduate students, they are asked to be attached to the villages. They are asked to get attached to the industry, to the different experiential learning units, so that they get more and more of hands-on practice, hands-on experience, so that they become entrepreneurs, or if they want to pursue the higher studies, so then they are attached to the industries and they can do the research work also. So that's what we try. For human resource development, we have a lot of scholarships, fellowships. We do a lot of summer training programs, winter training programs, and try to upscale their skills, not only for students but also for the teachers, all the faculty. And under quality, we have made it very compulsory. We have made it compulsory now that all the universities should be accredited, without which we do not admit the students in those universities. And that has really helped us a lot in getting the better education, in getting the better faculty, and upscaling their facilities for the students and other things. We have a lot of scholarships for attracting the students from abroad, outside India also, especially Indo-Africa Fellowship, the Netaji Subhash Fellowships, under which we are sending our students outside, and from around 50 countries, we are getting students to this. We are also ranking these universities just to have a competition, healthy competition among the universities. Next. Next. And based on the requirement, because now there are different priorities of the government, and according to the priorities of the government, we have changed the entire syllabus of the UG program. We are changing the syllabus of the PG program, and we are giving more and more emphasis for the entrepreneurship, for the rural development, for keeping in mind the environment. So environment related courses, artificial intelligence, all the courses related to this fourth agricultural revolution. So everything we have revised and reoriented the complete system for the students. Next. And this Student Ready program, which is a very prestigious program, Student Ready, READY. So this is Rural Entrepreneurship Awareness Development Yojana for the students, under which they get attached to the industry or to the rural areas. So that has really created a lot of interest amongst the students, and we are providing a financial support to each student to be attached to the villages under this particular program. Next. We have to maintain the quality of the universities. We have the minimum standards without which no university can establish any new college, and that very strictly we just follow. Next. I'm not discussing in details what are those standards. And for human resource, we have many other schemes so that the teachers, they get encouraged to attend those. Even after retirement, we engage them as the emeritus scientists. We engage them as the emeritus professors. We have the Center of Advanced Faculty Trainings. Next. We have many other schemes like National Fellow, National Professor, Summer School, Merit means scholarships, and that is all just to get the best of the best teachers engaged even after their retirement, or to give them some extra kind of benefit. Next. And then, as I told you, we have the PG scholarships, we have post-matric scholarships. There are many projects, extra projects, which we give to the faculty for this extramural research on the new areas, emerging areas for the research through ICR. Next. For human resource development, we have many new programs which we have introduced. Now we have the online counseling introduced from this academic year 2017-18. We have introduced the admission connected with the accreditation. So if a university or the college or the program is not accredited, then we do not allow them for the student, the admission of the students through the central process, through the ICR. So they have to just fill up those vacancies of the students only through these from the particular state to which they belong. And for doing all this, we have this centralized examination system through ICR. Just 3 days back, we have concluded that exam, and that has really attracted best of the best young minds for this agriculture education. Next. And if you see the rising trend, last year we had a quantum jump. 60% more applications we received for the agriculture education just after 12th December. So that is a rising trend now amongst the students to agriculture. And if you have best of the best talent in the agriculture, I think whatever my previous speakers they have spoken, that all can be achieved. We can really see a new India. We can see a new country. We can have the self-dependent country only once you have all the trained human power. Next. And yes, next. This is just a glimpse. We are providing training to the students. We are sending them from all the universities, the students to the best of the best universities across the world, with the complete support of our World Bank project, which we are operating. And till date, we have sent around 500 students for this particular purpose. Next. And we are sending the faculty also. And we have more than 50 MOUs signed with the top universities of the world for student exchange program, for intensive. Because if you do not go for the intensive, I think you cannot have the best training for the students. Next, I can just give you one data. Can you change the slide? Yeah. You can. I can just give you one very important data, and that is from Carnegie Foundation, and that is that the technical skills and the knowledge, very important study. Technical skills and knowledge account for about 15% of the reasons an individual gets a job. To keep the job and to advance on the job. So that means only 15% it will count. But the 85% of the job success is based on the individual's professional and pupil skills. So that means you have to give more focus on the intensive, you have to give more focus on the training, and that's what now we are trying, because that is what will pay to the student to remain in the job, to perform better in the job. Next. And for that, whatever I'm showing, these scholarships, these guidelines, whatever, so they are all oriented on that particular philosophy, and that is the Gandhian philosophy, which we are following for training, for providing the best of the best entrepreneurship through the rural entrepreneurship, rural engagements to the students. This is just a figure how where our students are going for this under this scholarship, Netaji Subhash scholarship, to get the best of the best knowledge, education through this system. Next. Similarly, from how many countries the students have come, that you can see from this. This is what I was saying, that through the World Bank project, which I am heading now, we are trying to send our faculty abroad. We are trying that best faculty, wherever it exists, they come to India to deliver the lectures. Presently, because of the COVID, they are delivering the lectures online. But we have more than 6,000 training programs just during this COVID program, which we have organized through this system. More than 6,000 programs. When you connect to the next, this is my last slide. So now our challenges are that how to have global reach, how to have the global campuses of our universities. For that, our government has selected 10 universities to make them of the global standards and to have the global campuses. And now under the new education policy, India is also trying that the global universities can have their campuses in India also. And I think that will be the best course to have the best education for the students. We are trying to implement the demand-driven research. So the research, the challenging areas like the topics which you have given today. So all those topics are collected now by the faculty and given to the students for their research work at UG, PG and PhD programs. At all the levels now we are trying. The universities have to be made multidisciplinary according to new education policy. And the biggest challenge now before us is how to implement the new education policy. How to have the better collaboration with other traditional universities. How to make the students the job providers, not the job seekers. And how to make the students to have the best knowledge about the challenges which the world is facing. Whether it's a green economy, whether it's as you have spoken today, the food processing, or any other kind of situation which arises, because in the future our challenge is to get more from less for more. Okay? So everything is shrinking, so that challenge has to be met only by our young and talented minds, which we are trying to create through this agriculture education system. So thank you, Dr. Bahel, for giving me this opportunity. And thanks to all audience, all the panelists for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful lecture about the agricultural education emerging scenario. I have been part of third and fourth Dean's Committee, and I know that with your intellect and with your concern, things will improve much better. I wanted to say that maybe our experiential learning component is very strong in our education system. But if we can somehow, you are at the helm of affairs and you can get this change realized, that we can get some funds for startups by the agricultural graduates, that will be wonderful because we are moving in direction of entrepreneurship. And I just do not know whether there is already a provision for startups by the agricultural graduates because experiential learning is just a pre-startup stage. And if we educate them properly in experiential learning in a project form, we can try their intellect for startup program. That will be the real realization of agricultural education towards entrepreneurship. So I don't know whether there is already a program. What do you think about it, sir?
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. R.C. Agarwal, sir. We have had a very good, wonderful presentation. Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights with all of us. Thank you, sir. I'm happy to introduce all of us to our last speaker of this international webinar, Professor Arthur Ridakar. Professor Arthur Ridakar. Sir, your PPT is on screen, but before this, I would like to give a brief introduction of Dr. Arthur Ridakar, sir, to everybody. Dr. Arthur Ridakar has joined us. He's from France. He's the honorary director and researcher at INRA French National Agronomical Research Institute, first at the Forestry Department and later on at the Economy and Sociology Department. He's an agronomical engineer from the Institut National Agronomique Paris. He has done his engineering in 1967. He has also done his PhD from the University of Clermont-Ferrand in 1973. As far as his additional training is concerned, sir has done ecology, master's degree with Professor Levay-Orsay, plant physiology, master's degree with Professor Heller and Todd, and forestry at Nancy. I'm very pleased to announce that sir is a Co-Prix Nobel Prize winner. He has received his Nobel Prize in 2007 for having contributed to IPCC work since 1990. Sir is also the member of the scientific committee of the International Foundation for Energy and Water since 2011. He's also the chairman of Oikos Institute since 2009. Sir is the senior consultant at DSP, founding member of the NGO and RIOT. Sir is also the member of the scientific committee of the ONF Forestry Project in Amazonia since 2000, consultant for international African organizations, participations in annual UN conferences on climate change since 1991 and in IPCC since 1990. There is a lot more to say about Professor Ridakar, but due to this shortage of time, sir, I would like to request you to please start with your presentation. Sir is going to present his presentation about land use efficiency in developed and developing countries. Professor Ridakar, we are able to see your presentation on screen.
Thank you very much, and I thank you for passing the slides. Yes, this is my presentation. I am just going to speak about developed countries, and then I will show what the developing countries should do. Next, please. Yes, with the Paris Agreement that countries have signed in 2016, industrialized countries are to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. That's only in 30 years now. That's very short. Next. Yes, and if we compare what countries are projecting to do, this is on the top. And if you compare what countries have pledged, that's the second line. And if we see what carbon neutrality requires, there is a huge gap. And we are not very likely to narrow this gap very soon. Next, please. That means we have still to produce non-food biomass for energy on cropland, and you have to further increase energy saving, energy efficiency, and also renewable energy. Next. So we have also to use right metrics for measuring the greenhouse gas emission. Today, we have what we have on the right hand side. That means we have emissions per country, but this doesn't take into account importation, neither exportation. So on the right hand side, for instance, in a country like France, we have 6.6 tons of CO2 per capita. That's a footprint, carbon footprint. But the real carbon footprint, if we take into account, and that's on the left side, if we take into account the imported and exported products, is actually close to 11 tons of CO2 per capita. That means that's the average in Europe, and that means we have a huge gap. We have to reach about 2.2 tons of CO2 per capita in 2050. That means that's a gap between 6 and 7 tons of CO2 per capita. Next, please. So the second thing that we have to change is that we are still with the metrics of a Kyoto Protocol. And at that time, we had a 100-year horizon for instance, for methane. But the global warming potential for methane at a 100-year horizon is only 28 times that of CO2 with the same weight. But actually, for a short time, as methane is much more active in short terms, it should be 86 times. That means it should today, we should have a global warming potential which should be 3 times higher for methane. And methane, you know, all that it's very important for, of course, in fossil industry, but also for livestock production. Next, please. So if we compare footprints, carbon footprints, territorial footprints, and energy footprints of meat consumption of ruminants. So if we compare diets of what we call it, for instance, in France, regular diets, and on the right-hand side, on the bottom, we have the organic food. And of course, it's what the scientists that have made the study, very interesting study, have called, and they compare the health issue, the health situation of these two types of consumers. They had these two cohorts and several hundreds of people to compare the health situation, and they found out that organic food was much healthier than the regular food. But when we look at the consumption, and we just look at the right-hand side, we see that the meat consumption of all regular diets are much higher than the meat consumption of people who have organic diets. So there is a big difference, and again here, livestock and meat production is very, very important. We have got similar results for energy footprint, which is less important, but for territorial footprint, that's very important, because if we have so much land now today devoted for livestock, and that's very important, and for meat production, at least in developed countries. So that's very important. And next one. Yes, that means we have to be more efficient, and also we have to compare, we have to have more intensive systems for livestock production. Here you have two systems producing on the same land, and you have to compare. When you compare systems, you have always to compare on the same land. And most of the mistakes that are making is because they don't compare on the same land area. So if you have a little more intensive system allows you to produce, to have also land for forest or for other productions, and to produce also for energy, for bioenergy. Whereas with the most extensive system, which is what you do, is supposed to be the best one, you have no possibility to produce energy. And if you compare the two systems, the more intensive system, it's much better than the less extensive system. Next one. So that means that this has several consequences. And at least for developed countries, we should decrease beef consumption by 12% or more in the coming years. And this is in line what Manfred Kern suggested, proposed to have more alternative for meat. And we have also to produce more healthy food, because we don't know, with experiments that have been done, we don't know if the difference in health is due to the fact that they have used, did have organic diets, or just less meat in their consumption. So we have to reduce, actually, when they compared the urine of the two cohorts, and they found out that they had less pesticides in the urines of the people having organic diets. So we must reduce toxicity of pesticides, and without reducing land use efficiency, because we don't have enough land. And we have to also save land for integrated pest management, and we come back to that later on. And we have to understand why organic food is healthier and how to produce such food with modified conventional farming. That's an important research agenda and also a huge challenge for the near future. Next one. So what are we to do in developing countries? We have to increase also land use efficiency, but for different reasons. Next one. Next one. Yes, we have to do that to meet the national growing demand of food. You have to produce more food, vegetable and meat per hectare to cope with the growing population. In Africa, it's at least to double in the next coming years. And we have to better cope with climate change. That's also an issue very important, not for climate mitigation, but for just to adapt to climate change. And we have to preserve the forest for sustainable food production, and to preserve also local environmental service. You all know what may happen if forests are completely disappearing. There are, of course, co-benefits for greenhouse gas emissions. First, we can avoid deforestation and land use change. That is very important, as we shall see. And we also should better manage cohorts to increase milk and meat production while reducing methane production. Because when they are not well fed, the cows produce much more methane per kilo of milk or meat than with better fed animals. So this deserves a very important action, and in particular increasing inputs per hectare of by co-fencing. I will come back to that, but co-fencing by rich and developing countries. Otherwise, nothing will happen in developing countries. Next one, in particular in Africa. So what is land use efficiency? I'm just going to detail this a little bit. It's not just yield of a crop per hectare, but it's a total annual amount production per hectare. So you have to consider also fallow land in 2 or 3 year rotation system. You have to consider yields of other crops. You have intercropping and multiple cropping, and also land for integrated pest management. That's important too. So for addition for instance, of cereal, you have to consider the impact of land use change, which depends on land use efficiency. if land use efficiency is increasing, so we may not have less land use change, but if it's not increasing, it's remaining constant like it is now in sub-Saharan Africa, you have to only possibility today is to have more land, means deforestation and land use change. So, and you have to also look at the global impacts, because if this is not produced in Africa, it has to be produced elsewhere, which is shown in future coming slides. Next one, please. So, for topic sub-Saharan Africa, the IFPRI has shown in several books for West, East, and Southern Africa that how climate change will affect or may affect the food production in these countries. It may also have shown that they have you have to increase inputs to maintain the present production, otherwise it will decrease in many cases. And the second thing I want to remind is that already in 2006, the Abuja Conference has pledged for having at least 50 kilo of fertilizer per hectare, and we are still far from that today. So that's very important to have a green revolution also in Africa and to be able to feed the population. Next one, please. So this is the comparison of what happened during the last 150 years between in France of territorial efficiency. On the very top, in 1850, we had land which was required about 1.5 hectare to produce 1 ton of cereal, of wheat. In 1950, a century ago, it was much smaller, but we still needed some land for animal draft animals and plowing animals feeding. So that you need less amount is much less. And in 1970, it's even smaller. And today we are coming close to a maximum, about 6.7 tons of wheat per hectare, which is a good production, but it's becoming more and more difficult to increase that. And so on the same land as in 1850, you can produce 9 times more food than in the past. That's not an infinite, but it's much more, and it's important. And we are now coming close to a maximum. Next one, please. So if we compare the territorial footprint per capita in 1950, when we had a low efficiency and low yield of wheat, we needed about 0.7 hectare per capita to feed them. That means an additional person was increasing very much the land use, and we had to deforest much land, and also that the emissions were quite high because of this land use change. Next one. But if we have a much more efficient land use, then we need about 0.17 hectare per capita. That means per additional person, we need much less deforestation, and we have also a much lower greenhouse gas emission, both on the cultivated land and both due to land use change. That's very important. So that's why it's important in countries like in Africa, where the land use efficiency is still very low, to increase the production, the land use efficiency. Next one, please. So this shows how much greenhouse gas, actually CO2. No, come back, please. No. Yes. If you on average, these are average for European countries. If you switch from forest land to grassland, you emit about 300 tons of CO2. If you switch from grassland to cropland, about 90 tons of CO2. But if you fertilize properly a wheat field, we have less than 3 tons of CO2 per hectare per year. That means we have 100 times less emissions per annual. And because the emissions from land use changes is occurring at year one, and emission from inputs are occurring year by year, that means at least during 2 centuries, it's much more efficient to have increased the yield rather than having land use change. And if you add also the additional production that you have with fertilizer, that means it's always better to increase first the land use efficiency by increasing fertilizer. Next one, please. So this I showed already saying that if Africa needs, for instance, 1 more ton of cereal, or it has to be produced elsewhere if they don't increase the efficiency in Africa. And there are several places where it can be produced, either by increasing land use efficiency or increasing land use. So that means this has to be able to do that. African countries are able to be to buy it, or they have to rely on food support. Next one. So in sub-Saharan Africa, and some people say, well, we have a lot of land. That's true, and there is a lot of land. And if you don't care for climate change, for forest and biodiversity, of course, you can still deforest the land in the future. But next one, please. Yes, but if you want to consider these environmental issues, you have to increase the inputs in sub-Saharan Africa. Otherwise, it will never be possible to increase sufficiently and enough rapidly land use efficiency to avoid huge greenhouse gas emissions. For instance, in sub-Saharan Africa, it's today the objective was to reach 15 kilo, but today it's still close to or below 20 kilos in most of the countries. So that's very important. Why is it not used more in Africa? Because the fertilizer is more expensive than anywhere else in the world, because of transportation difficulties, because of low consumption, and so on. So that means we have to co-subsidize the inputs with African or sub-Saharan countries to change the situation. Otherwise, all the efforts that, or most of the efforts that are made, for instance, by Europe, of course, I'm not saying, telling anything about US, which is not committed to reduce the greenhouse gas emission at present, but Europe, we have the objective is come to close to zero emission, carbon neutral Europe, but as population in Europe will be 8% of the world population in 2050, but it has no significant effect if we don't reduce the emissions elsewhere. And it's very easy to reduce it, at least technically, and it costs not so much to reduce it also in sub-Saharan Africa by increasing inputs, which would be good both for food security and for the climate. Next one. Yes, so I thank you very much for that. And you will find more in the book, Trends in Technology for Agriculture and Food and Environment and Health. And where I detail what would be global and burden sharing of both food security by 2030, which is objective of UN nation for 2030, and also to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, which is also what most countries and parliaments have committed to for the near future. And I do thank you, everybody, and in particular Professor Bell, who has organized this webinar, and which is very, very stimulating for the future, and also a good start for thinking for future research. And of course, what Manfred Kern has shown, reducing the meat consumption and replacing by vegetable meat would be very in line with what I have presented just now. Thank you very much.
for your very comprehensive and nice presentation. I agree with whatever you have said. It's perfectly done. But when it comes to land use efficiency, we need to consider the genetic resources also. I give you one example that the tall wheats before mid 70s, they used less fertilizer, they caused less mining, but the land use efficiency was low. The soil environment was intact, soil environment was healthy. When we changed the land use by the semi-dwarf wheats, they overmined the nutrients from the soil, and after 20 years of green revolution, we have been seeing the green gray patches. Okay, it means that the land use efficiency was maximized, but that the land resource base was reduced. So this confounding has to be included in your lecture. That what should decide the land use efficiency and land use change? For example, 50% people, they get their caloric needs from rice. And we know that among crops, the rice has a big major source of greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, but we can't compromise that we are not able to afford rice production. We need to change the rice production technology from flooded rice to direct seeded rice could be one approach. And then another approach is to be balanced by the government that in this particular area, we will have a low carbon emitting crops, we will have rice, and we will have another aquatic resources, food resources. So that planning has to be done by the government for a landscape of the country. And that is what I want to say, that your land use and land use change concept is very great, but it has to be enlarged by the governments for coherence of the environment and environmental sustainability, both above soil and below soil. Thank you.
I do thank you very much. It's
Yeah.
a good compliment, and of course I have this in mind. I did not explain everything in this short presentation, but
Yes, I know. Yes, I agree with you.
May I add a comment?
Yeah, please.
Arthur, maybe you have not considered what I think that's underway, the nitrogen fixation of from the atmosphere, where all the key crops will be done in 2050, drought-resistant crops and so forth. All these parameters are really related to genetic engineering of crops, and nitrogen fixation will be done in all key crops in 2050 without increasing the application of conventional classical fertilizer based on non-renewable energy.
well, I hope we will reach that. But I have been involved with my colleagues in research for more than 30 years now in this issue. And you remember that we had huge promises in the 80s about what can we do with genes. It was much more complicated than what we expected at that time. And of course, I mean, that's very important. And if we can increase that, it's very important. And if we can reduce the inputs, it's very important. But at this stage, I mean, it's not the case. So that's for the future. And what we need, and this is very important, we have to look also at the time frame. In the Kyoto Protocol, when we started this discussion on climate change issues, we thought we had much time for that. And that's why we had this 100-year horizon, and now it's much smaller. They discovered that it's much more urgent to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we have to work on both. And another aspect I want to underline is that when I'm looking at plants with plant use efficiency, whatever you need to use, if it's efficient, it's good. So it's there's no insufficiency. Yeah. Thank you.
Arthur, Manfred's suggestion was still far. the integrated nutrient management is important from 2 points of view. One is that we are using the microbial resources to fix atmospheric nitrogen. Another is to enhance the input use efficiency of the fertilizers by biologically oriented means. There are some enzymes which will improve the kinetic of the nitrogen use. So, for example, urea is nitrogen is present in amide form, NH2 form. It has to be converted to NO3 form. If it is converted without losses, then more nitrogen is available to the plants, and this can be done easily in the presence of microbes. So blending microbes with the fertilizers will be a very sensible approach to enhance the even fertilizer use efficiency. And that will also enhance the land use efficiency. And land use change can be balanced if we include the microbial or biologically oriented agriculture in our whole gamut of agriculture. So this is wonderful and timely suggestion by Manfred.
Let me add a second one if we have time for that.
Yeah, sure. Wait, 2 minutes.
I think land efficacy is a key statement, but I think land efficacy is related to what we are growing. Do we are growing carbohydrate crops or protein crops? It's a key that we go for protein crops. If you go fertilization only just for increasing the amount of fertilizer in different regions around the world, we are going in a similar trap than in Europe. So if the price of mineral oil is so lousy cheap at the moment, a lot of people will use this type of energy for the time being. The question is what we have to do now as scientists, really, to look into the future, what is essential far away from, I would say, mineral oil, which is cheap and which is used widespread or globally. And if we would have a price of $120 per barrel today in our food situation, we would go to hell. So we have to have a look on the clear understanding of future will be on the one hand side, but to install and trigger innovative approaches such as nitrogen fixation in all the crops, drought resistance in the crops. Thanks.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Professor Arthur. Thank you, Professor Manfred Kern. Thank you so much. I now feel proud to welcome the chief guest of this international webinar, Her Excellency Ambassador Mulu Solomon. A very warm welcome from Jagannath University, Bahadurgarh, ma'am. Yeah. Her Excellency Ambassador Mulu Solomon was born in 1958 in Oromia, Ethiopia. Ma'am has attended primary school in Kare, Goa, and then went to Fishe Secondary School. After high school, ma'am has earned her diploma in commercial school at Addis Ababa, BA in accounting with a minor in business administration from the Addis Ababa University. Ma'am has also done MA in developmental studies, environment and development from Addis Ababa University. Her Excellency Mulu Solomon has received several awards, including a United Nations Certificate of Merit Award of Honor, an honorary award from Serve the Generation Association, a Star Worker pin from the Ethiopian Import-Export Corporation, an Extraordinary Leader and Manager Gold Award from DH Keda and Addis Ababa University in EIKBC, Certificate of Honor for delivering high-quality teaching. We are very glad and privileged for your presence, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. And I am also glad to share that IPSADA has published its 14th book. The editors of the book are Dr. Rishi Behel, Dr. Machiavelli Singh, Professor Akim Ebenthal, and Dr. Manfred Kern. I request Her Excellency to please release the book along with Professor Kasai, Professor Manfred Kern, Dr. Devitt, Dr. Machiavelli, Professor Sumer Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jagannath University, and of course, the mentor of this webinar, Dr. Rishi Behel.
Machiavelli will perform the book release.
Yes, ma'am.
I request Dr. Machiavelli sir to please perform the book release.
Hello.
Her Excellency, may I have your permission to release the book? And
With pleasure, please.
oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you can view this, the release of the book by, this is our honor that it's going to be released by you, Her Excellency.
Thank you so much. We are pleased
So-
to release this book.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So this is the just brief about the book. The book is Trends in Technology for Agriculture, Food, Environment and Health, and that is edited under the guidance of Professor Bahel, with me, Dr. Ishim Ibn Thal from Hawk University, Germany, and Dr. Manfred Kern from Agri Excellence. So this is published by the AgroBios International, and it is going to be released with your blessings and grace. So we feel really honored and privileged on it. Now Professor Bahel will carry on with this. Sir.
We thank the authors and also the publishers.
I request Dr. Mudgil to bring other panelists also on the panel so that we all are involved in the release of the book. And yeah, Professor H.L. Verma, Professor Agarwal, and Professor Arthur Hidaka, Professor Ahmad Shamash, yeah, Professor Sumer Singh. So everyone should be involved in book release. Since we have the limitation of only 6 people to be on platform, that's why we will release it in 2 pools with Her Excellency Mulu Solomon common in both pools. Yeah. So this is basically everyone wants to share the pleasure of releasing a book, and that is what I can sense, and that is what I can feel. Yeah. And therefore, I thank you for releasing the book, and now we will request you to kindly offer the words of wisdom to all the panelists, all the participants worldwide. So Mrs. Her Excellency, please.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
I continue to deliver my speech.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. To save time, I might address by your names only, not trying to address the institution. Respected speakers and also organizers, but I'd like to address by name Professor R.K. Bahel and also Professor H.L. Varma, Professor D.P. King, Professor Kahasai Wondagurgis, and also Professor R.N. Tabar. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Professor Ahmed Sharma, and also Dr. Isha Chandra, Professor Manfred Kern, Professor Arthur Redfer, and also Professor Singh King. And also I would like to address others who are organizers in Germany, India, and Canada, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Please accept my heartfelt greeting of Ethiopia, which says Anaistanli, means wishing you stay in health. This is a usual greeting from Ethiopia even before COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, respected speakers and organizers, it gives me pleasure to be invited and be a speaker in this important international conference with a very important topic, trends in technology for agriculture, food, nutrition, environment, and health. What pleases me more and makes this event very special is that the conference is organized for today, October 2, 2020, to celebrate the birthday of the great visionary, reformer, and world leader, Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for others with great commitment and dignity, being a role model for servant leadership and a non-violent solution maker for peace, on the planet, who taught the world respecting others through self-respect and self-confidence, appearing in his cultural dress throughout. Mahatma Gandhi, my favorite. I'm glad to be here today. Regarding the topic of the conference, is the current situation in the increasing world population, the issue of agriculture, food, nutrition, environment, and health are very vital and close to our soul. Though these are very much human concerns, these are more serious concerns specifically for the developing countries like Ethiopia, who are challenged with the erratic rain, drought, flood, and any other climate and environmental problems, in addition to high population growth, high death rate. Health problems caused due to a variety of causes, in addition to lack of food and nutrition, are also the challenges of developing countries. Considering trends in technology for agriculture, food, nutrition, environment, health are very important for human life, for countries' growth and sustainable development. My country, Ethiopia's government, is going through very important and very unique reform to transform and take the country forward in agricultural transformation, in food security, health and environment protection, through securing renewable and green energy, in its industrial park, planting more than 6 billion trees in the last 2 years. In addition, by completing environment-friendly destination parks, industry parks, tourist destination industry tourist destination parks, aiming at globalization and poverty reduction. Ethiopia's reform is being led by our beloved Prime Minister, the World Nobel Prize winner, Peace Prize winner, laureate, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, with homegrown economic policy and with home-created political philosophy, or practical philosophy called Madamar. It means synergy, bringing synergy of the best and trying to improve what was going, which considers the need of human beings to be fulfilled and handle political, economic, and social and the other issues in a very pragmatic and balanced manner, considering human rights, including food, health, technology, environment, security, peace, respect, dignity, and what have you. Thus, our country needs that kind of contribution of international foundation of sustainable development of Africa and Asia, Africa-Asia Student Studies Promotion Association, especially through research, policy, and advocacy. As Ethiopia is a founding member of UN, Ethiopia would like to work hard or strongly for the fulfillment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which includes issues mentioned in the topic of the conference today. As a new homegrown or home-created political, economic, and social philosophy requires not to follow extreme, but pragmatically follow balanced approach. I would like to mention that there is a need to consider indigenous situations, contexts while balancing environment protection with technological advancement. So that even including considering the new recovery of economic and other recovery after COVID. To attain UN Sustainable Development Goals, it is required to have national, continental, and global joint effort. There comes great contribution of the International Foundation of Sustainable Development of Africa and Asia, and also Association of to promote studies, AASF, with co-organizers and related scientists and researchers. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been informed that AASF the desire to organize the first international conference of this kind on African soil at Addis Ababa. Also, I would like to thank Kananye and Mworku for the contribution mentioned by Professor Waldemar. As an ambassador of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, I support Africa-Asia Studies Promotion Association in their endeavor, not only organizing a conference, but also establishing a chapter in Addis Ababa, where huge participation by African and international practitioners and academicians is possible, as Addis Ababa is the seat of African Union and other international organizations. Additionally, the embassy wants to convey its appreciation and great support for the International Foundation for Sustainable Development of Africa and Asia for its interest to establish a skill training center in Ethiopia that will support the project. Finally, I may not have enough words to thank the organizers enough, but with simple words for a great job, I would like to say thank you so much for organizing this important international conference with an important topic on the memory of the birthday of the great person, late Mahatma Gandhi, who is still alive with his legacy of great values. Thus, my thanks goes to International Foundation for Sustainable Development in Africa and Asia, and African Asia Studies Promotion Association from Germany, Society for Sustainable Agricultural and Research Management from India, Genetics, Epigenetics, Environmental and Nutrition, towards plants, animal and human health from India, Optimal Pregnancy Environment Risk Assessment from Canada, and the Jagan North University from India. Sorry, I lost one. Actually, I lost my paper, but I can finish. As Ethiopia is the origin of mankind, we have just celebrated our new year 20 days ago. I'd like you to also take part, to be part of this. Okay, I get my paper, sorry. I also would like to thank by name Professor Bahil and also Professor Tatay Waldegorkis for their leadership, and also Dr. Dawit for his continuous effort in trying to reach me in person and encourage and try to convince me to be present today to participate in this interesting conference, and also has guided me to participate. Last but not least, I would like to thank all of the scientists, professors, all participants who contributed for this successful happening of this conference, directly or indirectly, and also those who listened to the presentation. I know nothing would have been possible without them. I say God bless you all. As I say, in Ethiopia, we have 30 months of sunshine. We have celebrated our New Year 20 days ago. September 11 is our new year, and we are in the 1930s today. If you come to Ethiopia, you'll be younger by 8 years. And as Ethiopia is the cradle of mankind, I believe this is also your new year, so that I want you to join us to celebrate this new year. And also, I would appreciate that, as I said, it's the cradle of mankind. It is also a new year. Thus, I wish you all a wonderful new year, which fills your heart and minds with forgiveness and love, your life with good health, peace and joy, and also thinking and acting with positive energy and success, and also abundant blessing of God. Lucky you, you have 2 new years. And I thank you again. God bless you.
Thank you, Her Excellency Ambassador Mrs. Solomon Wenze. I want to thank you for assuring us your support for organizing first international IFSDA International Conference on African soil and establishing skill center and knowledge center in Africa with headquarters in Mahatma Gandhi House, Germany. I'm going to propose that we may establish a tripartite, tri-country project on agripreneurship. I have been twice to Ethiopia and I see a lot of potential in Ethiopia. Dr. Manfred Kern has been in Ethiopia. He's developed wonderful report about the feasibility in Ethiopia. So we both view, and like that Arthur Lidakar, his firm view about progress in Ethiopia. So all of us are really assured about the potentialities of African soil and particularly Ethiopia, because I had guided many students from Ethiopia. They are very brilliant students, and I wish that we can have a project between India, Ethiopia, and Germany on agripreneurship. And if you agree, I can send you a project. We can involve Jagannath University from this side, Haryana Agricultural University, then some of the corporate sector, so that we can launch the project with the permission of ICR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and then we can seek some funds from Marshall Plan in Germany, and we can also have Agricultural Ministry Ethiopia involved. I had a chance to visit Agriculture Ministry, Science and Technology Ministry, Addis Ababa University. So there are possible interests in Ethiopia too. So you are requested to kindly give a thought about it, and depending upon your signal assurance, I will float a project to be commented by Professor Vidakar, Dr. Manfred Kern, and Dr. Waldekar Sahib, David Barkatab, and my Indian colleagues, so that we can realize this project. What do you say, madam?
I really am very much interested, and it will be great help for Ethiopia. You know, we have a lot of youth population and unemployment, where the government is giving focus to work on entrepreneurship and job creation. It will be our pleasure to support this program, and please kindly send the proposal, and we'll work on it together for the success of this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your presence with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Also, I'd like to thank you for spending your valuable time for this international webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hello,
And,
may I have voice check? May I have voice check? Are you able to voice check?
Yes, sir.
You are able to listen me?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I request Her Excellency Ambassador Mrs. Mulu Solomon to please stay tuned for the end of this webinar with us.
I didn't get you.
I request you to stay here with us, ma'am,
Okay.
for a few more minutes.
All right.
Thank you. Professor Sumer Singh, sir, you're audible. I now at last would like to welcome Professor Sumer Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jagannath University, Haryana, for his sum up remarks about the webinar for integration of technology for agriculture, food, environment, and health. But before that, I'd like to share a brief profile about of Dr. Sumer Singh. Sir is a PhD in management from BIT Mesra, MBA from IMT Ghaziabad, and BTech from MNIT Jaipur. Sir is a certified trainer for teachers, trainers from Thames Valley University, UK, and had run several FDPs for training faculty trainers to develop their delivery and design skills. Sir has above 35 years of experience as an engineer, corporate manager, civil servant, trainer, faculty, and academic administrator, which includes 16 years with industry, private as well as government establishments, and 19 years in the area of technical and management education, training, research, and academic administration. Professor Sumer Singh had been professor and HOD operations and supply chain management at IILM Lodi Road and Gurgaon campuses. Sir has been the founder director of standalone B schools, namely Acropolis Faculty of Management and Research, Indore, and ensured very fast growth from 120 intake to 300 students. During these tenures, Sir has given strong focus on formulation and establishment of systems and processes in order to set the transformational culture in the universities. Professor Singh has dealt with almost all the statutory and accrediting bodies like UGC, AICTE, PCI, BCI, COA, NCTE, Ayush, ICAR, NBA, NAC, and Department of Higher Education and Ministries of Government of Rajasthan and Haryana for necessary approvals, compliances, and accreditations. So we are very honored and for very warm welcome, sir. I would request you to please share the screen and say the sum up remarks about this webinar, sir.
Okay. Yes, I don't have PowerPoint slides, and I'll just speak something.
Sure, sir.
So first of all, I think let me say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all the three together. A very good night I have kept once we will depart. And at the same time, I think next time we can keep title of our webinar is International Day and Night Webinar. Okay. So now, let me first thank Her Excellency Ambassador Muloo Solomon, specifically remaining throughout the program. Not only that much, he has supported in this webinar as well as he has promised even for future initiatives up to the entrepreneurship, tie-up and many other programs. So ma'am, we are really honored. We are feeling privileged. And yes, you were there since the starting of the webinar, and throughout you have listened every scientist, and I think every minute was used by every scientist in a very fruitful manner. Yes, how the talk can be useful for whole world. And I'm feeling proud that yes, listeners, speakers are representing almost the whole world, the prominent countries, including the Asian countries. Now, if I see one of the Nobel laureate, the Professor Arthur, I think he has given, a lot of people are talking about carbon neutrality, but I think he has given a visionary document, carbon neutrality up to 2050, and not only that much, but food security up to 2030. Similarly, Dr. Manfred, he has also given many of the things futuristic as far as even the bioeconomy up to 2050 and many other things. Similarly, Dr. Chalmers, then Dr. R.N. Siebel from Canada, even he could mention how the Canadian food plate can be reimagined and practically seen for better and nutritious food and supplement. Similarly, Dr. Castle and then Professor D.P. Singh. Last but very important for all of us, Indians, the DGG Agricultural Education, ICAR, Government of India, he has given the whole landscape and how India is concerned about quality education, and that is to at large scale. And even in today's time, once the people are not opting for many other engineering-based courses, a lot of youngsters are opting for agricultural science. So I think that's a good sign as far as India and that is young India is concerned. Then similarly, yes, the great contributor, Professor R.K. Bahal, who is the main pillar behind this webinar. And I think it was a surprise for me that one by one, starting from maybe 2000, early 2000, 2020, he has given wonderful books on publications, even the latest publication which you have unveiled today. Similarly, observer Dr. Akivili Singh, the great contributor and the young scientist. I think it's a great asset not only for India, but the whole world, what I could see during all these deliberations, starting from preparation to executing this webinar in a wonderful manner. Then similarly, our IFS, DAA and IAST office bearers, and even our own team of faculty and staff of JNUB, including our Pro-Chancellor, Professor Verma, who were there since so many months, that yes, this international webinar should take a good shape, and it should be a wonderful, memorable scientific discussion, and that is for sustainability at the core during the discussions. As far as my understanding goes, the sustainability and exploitation of technology, and especially in agriculture or many other areas, I think nowadays you scientists have given the term that yes, now technology is not for maybe the exploitation, not for harnessing. It has to be for use. And even today, 3 words or other 3 R's are more prominent: reduce the use, reuse, and recycle. So I think I could witness during all the discussion, all the deliberations, that all these 3 components were there in one form or the other form. Otherwise, if I talk about agriculture itself, even through solar power, vertical farming, one of the another technology, once we combine agriculture and the solar energy, that is agri-politics. Maybe you know better than me, since I don't come from the agriculture background, but I always keep track on the latest things. That is really, I think, giving us a sustainable path for agriculture. Similarly, edible packaging, then biodegradable materials. Today we are saying that yes, today millennials or even the generation Z, they are materialistic society people or the citizens. So material science cannot be left out once we say materialistic generations who are great consumers. So I think whatever material we develop, whatever material we make them for use, again that is going to play a great role in ensuring sustainability, and that is through biodegradable materials. Then similarly, green insulation, water infrastructure technology, use of smart applications, especially in agriculture. Once we talk about sensor technology, GIS and remote sensing, few of the speakers have talked about this. Similarly, IoT, and then cool roofs, even that's again the newer technology which is coming up. Low energy house, even the zero energy buildings, electrochromic smart glasses. I think all these technologies are going to play a great role, and it's not only agriculture. I think it's engineering disciplines, starting from computer science to mechanical engineering to electronics. They have to come forward and integrate all these interdisciplinary research for the benefit of agriculture science. If I talk about the sustainable products, few of them to name: the cloth made from cycled fabric. Again, this is the newer thing which is coming up, and again it will ensure the sustainability at global level. Wool footwear, yes, again the newer thing which we can reimagine. Then the reusable coffee cups, electric cars, or we call electric vehicles. So this can be endless. So I think by sharing all these things, once again I thank one and all who participated in deliberations, as the audience, as speakers, and special thanks to Her Excellency Ambassador Moon Solomon, that you are a great help not only for today's webinar but even future sessions if we are going to collaborate and organize in this manner. And last but not least, I think congratulations to Professor Bahal. Even at this stage, I never find that he is 70 years old. He is as good as 27 years old. I see it from my own eyes, and even the youngsters are taking great inspiration from him, and many others who are linked with this noble cause for the whole world through his motivation only. So once again, thank you everyone. Today, yes, it's Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti, and we all know whether it's African countries or even the European Union or US, Canada, and especially India, I think it will not be justice unless I share a few things about Bapu, which we name him as Bapu Mahatma Gandhi. I'll mention a few things, or rather one quote he has given, and somebody mentioned earlier also, that we are talking about intervention. We are talking about food sufficiency and many other things. Even his first sentence which was given during his time, that if we have to see our citizen and happy citizen, let us not give them rice. Let us teach them how to produce rice and how to grow rice. So I think that sentence was including everything. entrepreneurial initiatives as well as skill development. But fine, that period was maybe 150 years back or more than that. Today we have passed, or our scientists have allowed us to pass all those hurdles, and maybe we have exploited and say we have harnessed. But today we are talking about how to make the whole world sustainable as far as harnessing of technology is concerned. And not only that much, we have to take care of our Mother Earth. And once we talk about Mother Earth, I think there are two components. One is water, and other one is soil. And other things, yes, air and other things will be there. But if we take care of that, and I've witnessed during the discussion, deliberations, that yes, many of the innovative things are coming up. And as future generation, as academicians, we wherever we are feeling comfortable that yes, that time is not so far that we will ensure the sustainability in every manner. So apart from that, whatever Bapuji used to like, so these are the 10 things he used to like. And I think these are prominent today itself. One was he always used to say that one should have faith in self. Nowadays we talk about the self-confidence. We know that how strong he was, very lean and thin, then not a great orator, but he used to say that yes, my power is simplicity and honesty. And that was the great tool. Yes, he could make difference world over. And a special contribution in India's freedom fight. Then second was resistance and persistence. He says that yes, people will ignore you. They will laugh on you. But you decide your objective and be a runner on your mission. Don't see left or right. I think today also it is quite apt and to be understood and followed. The third was forgiveness. He used to say that yes, this word forgiveness is not for the people who are weak. This is for the people who are powerful. So I think nowadays we talk a lot of talk goes on like this intolerance and many other things are coming up. But I think the message which he has given, and he used to love it. And he used to say, if you have to do your enemies, make them friends. Fourth was learning from mistakes. He said, yes, you will do mistakes, but learn from that, and then rest of things should be left on the go. Then learning from strength of character. Again, I think it's an Indian saying. I don't know whether other countries are also following, understanding that or not. Once you have lost money, you have lost something. Once you have lost health, you have lost something. Once you have lost character, you have lost something. So again, he used to focus on character. And the next thing was love people, don't hate them. Again, the great message to humility. Next one was truthfulness, right? Maybe you have to dare. You have to dare and always be supportive of truthfulness. The next one was live in present. I mean, if you are taken care of today, fine, tomorrow will be taken care of. And the second last is do it anyway. That's what the life is, right? Wherever you are, whatever situation is, keep on continuing persistently. And the last but not least, I should have spoken, or I could have uttered in the first writing of Bapuji, that is non-violence, ahimsa. He always used to say ahimsa paramo dharma. So I think it will be great tribute to Bapuji once we had this wonderful webinar, and I think we could have missed if I don't have talked about two things which he liked, and to my mind they are quite apt and maybe justifiable for today's citizens world over to understand and imbibe them in their character and even their daily life. So this is all from my side. Once again, thank you all, and I request Ramdhun, whatever he used to like, I think Neha, if help permits.
Sir, before we do that Ramdhun, I want to show you the organizing team's faces to the speakers. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Right. Thank you so much.
No, we will stay tuned. Then we will play Ramdhun. Yeah. I request Dr. N.S. Rathi, Dr. Mudgil, Dr. Praveen Sharma, Dr. Machiavelli Singh, Neha to be visible on the screen. Hari Om. Who is to organize the stage for us. And without the help of technical help of Hari Om, Dr. Mudgil, Dr. Machiavelli, it would not have been possible to organize today's webinar. And without the anchorage of Neha Bhatt and the hospitality of Praveen Sharma, we should not have been L1 and very agile throughout the 3 hours of the webinar. Now I request you to kindly play the Ram Dhun, which you have very judiciously thought and very nicely planned.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Richie,
Yeah,
can you give me a last chance to speak to my ambassador?
yeah, why not?
Shall I?
Take 1 minute only.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would like to thank my ambassador for joining this webinar. And this is, I think, the third Ethiopian ambassador, 3 ambassadors, your predecessors have visited us, working in. And we're very keen on developing projects in Ethiopia because the system of the African Union is Addis Ababa. And I've been trying with Professor Richie Bale, who visited me twice in Ethiopia. And the last time we had presented we wanted to make patron the late president of Ethiopia who died, Girma Waldewolde Giorgis. And Dr. Makiam took the letter and he agreed, but 2 days later he died. So the wish of many of our members who organize a conference in Ethiopia is very, very great. So I hope with your help we will have a conference in Ethiopia in the near future. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and we will stay in touch in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much now. Thank you so much on behalf of the university and behalf of all the organizing committee. I would like to say a big thank you for all of you to have joined this international webinar. I think it has been a successful international webinar. So thank you so much. Thank you all.
फिर मिलेंगे.
फिर मिलेंगे. Auf Wiedersehen to the Germans. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so
Now
much.
we can say,
Thank you.
Salam.
we can say good night to some of you. Good night to some of you.
Very
Goodbye.
goodbye. ደህና ሁኑ።
Bye bye.
Bye.